Hi, I'm Luke from Intelligent Collector. You're watching Papa Pete, the old guy.
If you haven't grown up by the age of 50, you don't have to.
Hey guys, Tuesday night, and this is a special one. I want to first and foremost welcome and thank Mr. David Harley, seen right down below here, which I point the right way. Dave, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you coming on there and doing this and sharing your stories and sharing your knowledge and everything with everybody who's such a big fan of the Intellivision.
Pete, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I love your shows.
Right on. Thank you for saying that. David, of course, if for those in the chat who aren't completely aware, is one of the very early people in the Intellivision homebrew scene, one of the co-founders of Intelligentvision back in around 2003, 2004, and still has that company going today. I would call it the most prolific homebrew producer of all time, because I think the sheer number of games that have been produced between Intellivision Revolution and Intelligentvision, it's a running number, but it's a lot of games. We'll rattle through some of those games a little later on. Really just an historic influencer on the history of the Intellivision homebrew scene. So and we're very fortunate to have him with us here tonight to answer your questions and answer our questions and talk with Jeff and I. And of course, Jeff, thank you for being here as always, helping us out.
Thanks, Pete, for having me.
Jeff will be watching the chat, guys, so he'll watch for your questions. Feel free to type in questions. If we don't get to your question right away, Jeff is watching for that. And also, don't hesitate if we do happen to miss it for whatever reason to go back to it later on. So let's take before we go, let's take a quick look at the chat. People are starting to filter in here as we get rolling. Right on, did I get the right one? Benvrill's in the house. Good to see you, Benvrill. Thanks for being here. Kurt Bradshaw, member of the Coco crew. Scrolling down, we have PJ Smith. Thank you, PJ, for being here. This is going to be great. Thank you, David. He says that's awesome. Craig Finstad, who does a lot of, I say this every week, but Craig, I know, is a very big in the Intellivision homebrew community as a tester, very appreciated tester from various programmers going around. We got Pierre Garreau here. Hope we don't miss anybody here, guys. Scrolling down through. Pierre, thank you for being here as always. EE Buckeye. Yes, good to see you. I don't know if you've been here or not before, or if you're just here to see David. And if you are, great and welcome in any case. So that's awesome. Look at this, Pete. Oh, missed it. This one right here. PJ Smith, Super Pro Tennis is underappreciated. So well done. Thanks, David. And guys, we'll be, I know David wants us to tell a story too about tennis, right?
I got stories. We can be here for hours.
We'll get to that right on. Let's get down through. I'm almost to the bottom here now. Salvatore in the house. 64-bit is in the house. Hello, ladies. Hello to you too. That's my kid, by the way, David. Steve Lawson. Steve Lawson. Hello there. Thanks for being here. Scrolling down a little bit more. I like to say hello to everybody. Casey's in the house. 64-bit. Yeah, he always makes his appearance, doesn't he, Casey, with some smart aleck comments, and then he goes away. Let's see who else. Michael Hayes. Right on. Thank you for being
here. Robots.
There you go. David's very familiar with Michael, of course. Who else? Did I miss anybody else there? Oh, Chuck's here. DJC Game Studios, who I know for a fact him and Casey both love Stonix. So we'll be talking some Stonix later on too. That's beautiful. And let's keep going down. Am I getting anybody else? Michael Doherty's here. Good to see you, Michael. Good to see the man behind the Intellivision library. Exactly. And that David and I were Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit before we went online. That David decided, I'll get on here and get the chance. And I know that everybody's really anxious and appreciative to get to meet him here today, get to see him face to face, and show some appreciation. Metal Torso in the house. Good to see you, Metal Torso. Casey, thank you so much. Super chat. Welcome, David Harley. Everybody's really excited to see you here today, David. I'll tell you that.
I appreciate it.
It's been a talk.
I didn't want to do this show, Pete. It's all because of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that
wife.
very much too. And your wife. Yeah, and I talked to her beforehand too. She said, I told him people want to meet him, so get in there and meet everybody. Harvey Decline. Good to see you, Harvey. Thanks for being here, man. And it's Michelle Madares. And I had a special message from Michelle, because they said I'm not going to be able to make it tonight, so give my best to David and thank him for doing it. He was going to check they're going to check the replay out later, but I see they made it, so that's awesome. So special message would have been passed on from Michelle from Facebook, and that gets me pretty much through it. So that's awesome. What a great chat. We got a full house already, so let's start talking about some stuff. David, I want to know first and foremost, when did you first start playing the Intellivision? How did your love of the Intellivision develop? I guess.
Well, I mean, I was lucky when I was a kid. I mean, those consoles, I lived in Panama, so those consoles were like $360.
Yeah.
Back in 79.
Yeah.
And I had a neighbor who had games and who had a console.
Yeah.
And I used to go to his house and play all the sports games. And then eventually got my own unit, got Intellivision 2.
Yep.
Grew up and kind of put it away. And I'm going to help you get to the tennis part. And so then,
so what were your favorite games back in the day? You said of course, it was sort of different. You almost had to have people go to a friend's house, or you got somebody come over so you could play the sports games, right? What were your favorite games back?
Oh God, we played hockey, basketball, football,
yeah,
baseball, soccer, and then I bought tennis, space battle. I had skiing.
Yep.
And I got sea battle at some point, but tennis was one of the first ones, and I ruled on tennis. So tennis was one of the games I owned as a kid.
And that's going to sort of lead into when we get up to the Intellivision. So, let's up through the 90s and such. Now, there's quite a period. Like, I know that I sort of got away from it for a while, of course, but you were by the early 2000s you were getting into Intelligentvision. How did you keep involved with the Intellivision up through from? You're only a couple years older than us, but we're all about the same age, so we all hit the same periods where maybe in the 90s you sort of get away from it. How did you maintain Intellivision through that period? Did you play it much? Did you?
Well, I had Intellivision too.
Yeah,
crappy controllers, but and I had some games. And in the mid 90s, I guess I pulled it out and I had it hooked up to my TV, and then I would play games. And then I discovered eBay.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't know about championship baseball and championship world championship baseball.
Yeah,
and
world championship baseball, right? and the Super.
I know about those. I remember. I'm going to go back a little bit. I remember when the ECS was announced. God, I should have pulled out the magazine. There's a magazine that had the ECS, the Atari computer, and the ColecoVision Atom. And I actually bought an Atom. I own the Atom.
Oh, yes. Wow.
And so when I got into the Atom, I kind of moved away from the Intellivision. But so come mid-90s, when I found the eBay, and it said, and I had my Intellivision out, I found championship tennis and baseball. I'm like, oh, these are cool. And baseball AR, I'm like, that's kind of weak. And championship tennis was just horrendous. Sorry for those who like it, but I thought it was just horrendous because I like the original game. And that was actually the start of my quest. I'm like, I think I found Joe Z had the emulator, and I started realizing emulation was coming out. And I'm like, we need a better single player tennis. And it started in the late 90s. That's really was my first drive. Like, I really want to see that.
And so how long did you work on that?
It took me
did you work on it then?
probably took me 12 years to actually get around to it. That's actually how Intelligent Vision kind of came about. So we started off. I know you like to ask questions, people. I can just tell a story.
You
So
keep I'll let you roll, and I'll ask the
I-
question
I-
according to what you say. If I say anything clarified.
All right. So what happens is, and this in the early years, you got to give a lot of shout out to people like Carl and Willie and Josie and even Intellivision Productions and Keith.
Carl Mueller Jr., Willie Muller, Josie B. Check. Absolutely. I just
you just have to give shout outs to those people, right? I mean, if it wasn't for the work they did at the beginning, I mean, I think Carl did a lot of work for Intellivision Productions. He really helped get that stuff done. And
you're talking.
So I give great respect and appreciation for the work they've done. So they're the ones that really got this stuff going. I know Intellivision Productions probably just saw dollar signs in it, but these other guys did it for the love of it, and I appreciate all that they did. So they're the ones that actually helped me get going on this stuff, and so I found give all the kudos to all those guys, and so I found Chris Neiman online. He was a huge Intellivision collector back in the day, and we were just chatting. I don't remember all the chats, but we had emails going back and forth, and I met him at what was it? Was it in Vegas? One of the gaming shows,
like CES or something out there. Yeah,
I'm not CGEs. I think it was
CGE.
I think
Computer Gaming Expo,
Classic Gaming Expos. Yeah,
Classic Gaming Expo.
I mean, you're talking early 2000s, right? So I met Chris out there, and he's like, he didn't know who I was. I wasn't a collector or anything, but he was really nice to me. And I met him, and then I met him the next year, and then I met Dan Blitz out there, and Dan Blitz is really the man who actually got Intelligent Vision going, I believe.
Okay.
And I really give him all the kudos. And I didn't realize the real story. The sad part is it took me like 15 years to really realize what really happened. And one day I called him up and we were sitting there chatting, and he told me everything. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know all that stuff. Someone mentioned the library. A lot of the material of the library came from Dan Blitz. He had a massive collection. And I actually talked to Dan before this call, before this chat here.
Okay, good.
And I think he's fine with all this information. So what happened was Dan Blitz was in communication with some people. Don't have to throw the names out there. It took him 4 years to befriend these people, and he got a hold of all the unreleased games. So your Rocky, your Flintstones, your World Series Baseball with the original names, your Scarfinger, all those titles that I put out.
Right.
And he's the one who actually got it all. And so one day when I were at the CGEs, I think it was in Vegas again, the three of us went up to a room with our wives, and Dan and Chris are sitting there chatting, and they're talking about, it's like, oh, we want to get these games out. Yeah. And I'm like, what games? I didn't even know about them. So they introduced it to me, and I told Chris, I said, hey, Chris, I would love to be part of your guys' team. Because, they're sitting, a lot of people sit there and dream about ideas. It's like, oh, this would be fun to do. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's like, no, this wouldn't be fun to do. This is something we can do. So I started talking to Chris. I go off to work into Germany, and I'm chatting with Chris on emails. And I said, Chris, I want to be part of your team. And yeah, whatever. And here comes Stonix. So Stonix was a prototype. It was a game that only had 3 screens on it.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, hey, Chris, what if I could deliver Stonix to you? I think this is how the story goes. Yeah. He goes, well, if you could deliver Stonix, okay, sure, you can be part of my team. So I contacted Arnold. I said, hey, Arnold, let's finish Stonix. He goes, I'm not really that interested, as most programmers say, right? Yeah. So I said, well, hey, what if I work with you? He said, well, if you work with me, sure. And so hence where I came in was to actually start designing all the screens. So I'm designing all the screens, and he's writing the code. And hence how I got into Intelligent Vision. I'll stop there so you can ask me questions.
Well, I'm just listening, man. So we're up to the point of where you guys are starting to develop Stonix.
Yeah. So what happened was,
And
we
maybe
we
I'll
had
put
all-
it on for those who aren't familiar with Stonix. Stonix was the second ever Intellivision Homebrew released August 15th, 2004. Intellivision only was behind Left Turn Only with Fortress. Other than that, it was Intellivision for the first 10 is like, what is it? Is it 8, 7, maybe 9 of the first 10 are all Intellivision games. And Stonix the one that led it all. And man, it's incredible today.
you actually remind me of. I'm gonna go backwards real quick. Remind me of a story, and this is actually
Okay.
kind of how. So we went out to CG one year, and Joe was out there. Excuse me, and
Go ahead.
And he actually had his original Fortress, a few left of his original Fortress. I think there was 5 or 6 or 7 copies, and I told him, I said, hey Joe, well Joe, he wanted to sell them, right? I say,
Right.
I go, how much are you gonna sell them for, Joe? He goes, $30. I'm like, no, Joe. I said, no, Joe. There's more desire for those things. Put them at 50. No, I don't want to do it. I said, put it at 50. He did. We were just messing with each other, right?
Yeah.
And so he puts them on the table. We go out. I think this was a digital press table, and we go out to lunch, and we come back 1 hour later. All his games are gone, and that was really a driver to show that there was interest in these type of games.
Such a market.
Yeah. And so what happened was, so we're sitting on Chris and Dan. Their goal was to release all the unreleased games.
Yes.
But the problem is, well, we know, you have questionable. How would you word it nicely?
Well,
it was questionable in releasing them. We'll say it that way, right?
David, you don't have to put it nicely because they aren't all the highest quality games because that's part of the reason they were never released.
Well, I have a love for a lot of those.
Okay,
and I hear you, right? I mean, like Flintstone's Keyboard Fun, right? Who wants to learn typing on an ECS, right?
Yeah.
But we wanted to share with people what could have been. We know what the original stuff was, and we weren't alone in that idea. So my logic was, well, how about we build up our customer base, and once we build up our customer base, we can always underground these games if we had to. And so that's actually why we started going with the idea of let's get Stonix, Mindhunter, Same Game Robots, and well, I didn't really care to re-release Fortress again. It was just a 4th title, but I mean, Fortress was kind of it wasn't I don't know. I mean, Joe did a great job releasing it, right? But it just wasn't the same collector box. So that's actually why we actually did the homebrews first and not the unreleased titles.
Okay, to build up your marketplace, basically.
Right. Yeah, to get our customer base, because I mean, nobody was doing homebrew and television games.
That makes such sense. Good night, Michelle.
Yeah.
That makes such sense to do that. So it's sort of cool. So tell me, okay. So you're up and through, and that all started. You got how many games that was? 7 or 8. Let's take a look. I'm going to take a look at the list here real quick. I'm going to bring that up on the screen here in a moment. I'm going to pull back Stonix. So that Stonix is absolutely amazing. When you look at this game, of course, all written in assembly, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's Arnold is amazing. Arnold game. I mean, everything Arnold has done. He was my inspiration with the. I mean, he did the Burger Time editor.
Oh yeah.
And I think I was the only person who probably actually used his editor and actually released 7 levels,
which is your Super Chef.
No, what actually there was somebody's released a ROM out there. I forgot what they call it, Burger Time David or something. I don't remember what they called it, but Super Chef was really just. I took his idea of editing the levels. I never asked him for the original source code how to break it down. I actually had to figure out the levels themselves, but it was his inspiration. I mean, Arnold was just. I've got a ton of respect. Arnold helped me with King of the Mountain, Choplifter.
Yes.
And so, I mean, Choplifter was an unreleased game, right? King of the Mountain was actually released on the Intellivision Lives or Rocks or whatever.
Yes, for sure.
But Arnold, I mean, that guy's amazing. I just adore Arnold. He's helped me out so much through the years. I actually have a picture. Arnold and I and my wife were going out to one of the CGs. And while we
Okay.
were at the airport, I was on the computer and he was trying to teach me how to code, and I didn't know what the hell he was saying. I was
My God.
lost.
But
yeah.
So you had from 04 to 07, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Then there's a little bit of a break where things just sort of developed in the company, in the group, correct? Like, just things sort of developed until 2011 came, and then it sort of started full force again. Can you tell us sort of a little bit about the process of back when it sort of kicked back, Intellivision kicked back in 2011, and in 2011 and 12 you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games.
Yeah, that was,
and again, these are the re-releases though, which
right.
it all sort of started with, but then it developed to this point. So give us a scoop on how it's sort of the resurgence, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back a little further if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we start off with Stonix. Man, doing those levels, people think it's easy. Ton of work. And I think I wrote down we spent like 9 months on it. I would come home every day, and I think I did. Arnold, I think, did like about 6 screens. Okay. My wife did a few because I had to hit like 80 or something screens, and my wife said, "Let me do a few."
Oh wow!
So she did a few, and because I was burned out. And Arnold did a few while he was coding because I think Arnold got a little jealous I was doing them all, so he did a few. And I'm making that up. I don't know what Arnold was thinking, but he did a few, and then I went ahead. Well, actually, what happened was that's what it was. So I'm talking to Arnold and say, "Hey, Arnold, let's release Stonix." He goes, "Okay, sure." I said, "Tell you what, I'll make 100 screens," and he goes, "Yeah, right." So of course now I had to make 100 screens. So needless to say, I made 100 screens, and the game actually I think has 106. I think.
Okay.
So Arnold actually did the remaining 6. I actually did the 100 as I promised, and I think that was it's kind of what motivated Arnold. It was like, he was coding, I was doing screens, like a race, who can finish first.
That's so cool.
So we get Stonix, and I'm very proud of Stonix. I think Arnold did an amazing job. I think the screens are great. I think most ideas was his. I don't remember if I gave him any ideas of the game itself, but
it's so amazingly fluid.
Yeah, yeah.
Think about the fact that there's almost 200 Intellivision Homebrew today, and between Fortress and Stonix, the first two, there's nothing really more advanced or smooth or fun to play than the very first 2 that were ever made. Right? Yeah. It's incredible, frankly, with those 2 games, the Joe's and then your guys's.
And then we had Mindhunter. Mindhunter was already done. Okay. I went in and hacked it a little bit, and then oh my God, I blanked on who did it. Oh my God, who coded Mindhunter? Ryan McKinnon. There we go, Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I hacked it, Ryan came back and said, "Oh, I'll fix it." He came back and fixed it, and he really just implemented the hack I did to it. It was just to keep the cursor in the square. So Mindhunter is pretty much done. So that was the second title. And they were like, "Oh, I don't know why we picked to release 4 titles." So Fortress was on there, and then Michael Hayes had Same Gamer Robots. He actually had his, and I think he's on here, so he can.
He is, yeah.
But he had his 2 separate games. There he is.
I know of the code to unlock 101 to 105. Yeah. There's 106.
Yeah. Oh, but maybe it's 100 and maybe it's 100. I thought there was 106 screens on there. I'd have to look, Mike. So Mike had Same Game as one game, Robots is another game, and I think he combined them into one ROM, and then he gave it to me.
Okay.
And then I'm like, Mike's great at making the games, but if I recall back then, he's like, he's not into the polishing it.
Yeah.
So I said, let me give it a shot and try to polish it, and I think I'm the one who added the voice to it, and I liked Intellivoice games. There was only 4, so I'm like, let's make an Intellivoice game. So we threw the voice in there, and I was just kind of hacking more because I'm not a programmer like these other guys are. These other guys are amazing, but so I was just hacking Same Game Robots and kind of polishing it up, and then we kind of had a little fallout, me and Chris, and I'm like, this isn't working. And then he actually just released it. He took what I had and he just released it, but I never really finished it.
Okay.
So that takes us to 2005, right? Same Game Robot comes out. I'm gonna give you.
That was.
Yeah. I gotta go back to see what Mike said.
There it is, right here.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there we go. Yep. Yeah. Oh, so God, Fubar's that old too. So
There you go.
I thought Fubar was after. So
Release,
so here's a little trivia for everybody who may have any of those original 4 first games.
Yeah.
We used Joe's first board design. On that first board design, he had jumpers on the game board. And if you jump them certain ways, you can get to all the 4 games. So every card actually has all the 4 games.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So, but the thing is, if you look at Stonix, you probably don't have Same Gamer Robots. I don't know what else is on there. So depending on when we got the games programmed, depending what the other 3 games were. But yeah, so all those games actually have all 4 games, but they not be. If you got the last versions of Same Gamer Robots, and you probably have all 4 complete games.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So basically, is that well known? Because I've never heard of anybody say that.
There was a story someone came up with saying that there was a prototype of them, but no, it wasn't. We never really told anybody. I don't think anybody really came out saying.
So you basically produced all the same game and just put the jumpers on different.
Yeah. Well, actually, Joe, I think put the order of the games different, so they don't have jumpers on them. You just put, so the Same Game Robots would have been the first one, and then the other 3 were there. If you want to get the other 3, you just jump it. You just jump the board.
Wow.
But yeah. So they all have different games and different versions of them. See, Mike had heard about it.
Tag along, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, Tag Along Todd. That was actually one of the first games I started hacking because that's part of the SDK kit.
Yeah.
And I that was a kind of cool game Joe did, but it's just a stick man running around, and so I actually started hacking where I think I have it on my website. The fence comes down and there's grass and it's a running man. That was actually the first game I actually hacked, I think. Anyway, so that gets us to 2005. Mike, I hope I said that story close. It's been a long time since I try to remember all this stuff. So we get to 2005. I said, I'm done. Roger releases Robot Rebel and League of Light. Yep. And but he did that kind of undercover, right? Joe didn't want to release boards because he was worried about the being questioned about what games were released. Cool. Thanks, Mike. So Joe didn't really want to use his boards for questionable games. But they did those 2 games, and Roger got them out, and Chris just was done. Roger, I guess, was done. And we all just kind of just ended it, right? We just stopped. Yeah, I just stopped. And then
see that comment, David? That was just up there.
Oh no, I missed it.
Where'd it go?
Oh,
there you go. KG Goo Goo, thanks for being here. Do you know Dana? Who's Dana?
Dana, if I remember, Dana's from a long time ago.
Oh wow, there you go. Right on.
Right. I've been doing this for 20 years. You meet a lot of cool people through the years, and that's really why I wanted to do this with you, Pete. Just because there's been a lot of people been really nice to me. Some people have sent me the nicest emails, and I keep them. I actually keep them. They're my inspiration to share this stuff, right? Why do we do this, right? For the love of the Intellivision, right? Really.
For everybody in the chat, we got together on Saturday for a few minutes. We ended up talking and said, okay, we're telling too many stories we want to save for Tuesday night. But one of the things we did talk about is about doing stuff like this, and how one of my beliefs when we do things like this is I'm not trying for scoops. I just want to talk and learn from David because I love the stuff that he does for the Intellivision. And I know so many of you out there in the chat feel the same way. You're just looking to show some appreciation and get some learning from these people who've created these great games that we all enjoy so much now. So that's fantastic. Hey, Roger is in the house too. Member of the Coco crew. There's Psycho Stormtrooper right there. Good to see you.
The best overlays, right? That's why we asked Roger to get those overlays. His overlays are amazing. So we get to one of the CG shows when I saw Joe out there. I think while I was talking, because his game is called Lunar MP, right?
Okay.
And I think I talked to him and said, "Hey Joe, why don't you finish that thing?" I said, since I had done the levels for Stonix, I told Joe, I said, "Hey Joe, I'll do the levels for you in Moon Patrol." So we finished up with Intelligent Vision 2005-ish, whatever. And I guess it must have been 2006. Joe shoots me an email. He says, "Hey, you still want to do those levels?" And I guess I was ready to get back into it. I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And so he told me, he says, "I want them to be exactly like the arcade." I'm like, "Crap, really?" This is going to be easy. So he actually had, I hope people are enjoying these stories. So he actually had screenshots of every section of Moon Patrol.
Right.
You think about it's like, oh, Moon Patrol one level, right? It's 26 screens though.
Stages.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and I think it had two. Yeah, it had two of them, right? I think there's two of them. So if you actually think about it, that's 50, right? And I can do my math. Yeah. It's 52. I understand. So, so I'm like, sure, I'll do it. I'm like, this isn't easy because he really wanted it like exactly the same. So when I was setting him up, I actually had to try to time it. So those first two were kind of hard. And then Joe comes along. He says, how about we add some more? I'm like, how many more are you talking about? He goes, well, I was thinking of an idea that we can have a menu. And I don't remember how the conversation went, but we have a menu with 4 different planets, and we could do two sets of screens on every planet. And I'm like, that's 6 more to do. do 2 per level. You can understand how many levels how much work that is. And so it kind of was worked the same way like we did with Arnold, where I'm working the screens and Joe's working the coding. And so every time I would send, and this is how it worked with Arnold, every time I would send him work I think it inspired him to do more. And when he would do more, I felt like I had to hurry and do more screens. So it was just back and forth.
You fed off each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, I'm sitting at the airport on the plane, anywhere I'm sitting just designing screens. It was a ton of work. I mean, so as we're making it, he's like, hey, I'm going to introduce that. How was it? I'm going to have a ship come from the back. So as we're making screens and he's coding, he's coming up with new ideas for the screen. So it's like, well, the moon planet has to have something, and Mars has to have something, and Venus has to have something, and Mercury's got to have something. I think those are the 4 planets. And probably Space Patrol. Was that the Space Patrol? So he's coming up with new ideas and jumping and all these other things. And so while he's coming with these ideas, I have to redo the levels. And then when you change one screen and you make it too hard, where you don't want your hard stuff to be early in the game, you got to be at the right time. So you got to ramp up how the levels play out. And I tried, I don't know how successful I was, but I tried to make the game ramp up because Joe did the coding of it and I did the difficulty of it, if that makes sense, right? So depending on what you put into the screen depends on how hard it is. So every time he would come up with something, I'm like, Joe, you're killing me because now I have to go back and redo some of my old ones and move things around and stuff. So we finished with Space Patrol, and I really didn't think I was going to do Intelligent Vision again.
Right.
And so Joe was talking about he wanted to release on his label, and I didn't care. Yeah. I don't even think it was a discussion. I think he just, I'm going to do it as LTO. I'm like, okay. I think that was it. I helped him with it. The artwork, I think his sister did the artwork, which I loved it. I think I did the boxes, the overlays. I think I did the manuals. Yeah. I don't remember the overlays where those came from. It wasn't Roger. But so we did Space Patrol and he re-released yet again Fortress. And then I took a break because I don't know, I was kind of done again. So that gets us to 2011. And then we hit like 2010.
From 7 to 11, it says. So probably by 10, you were starting up a little bit again. So something got you back into it.
I really wasn't starting up. So you ready for that phase now? Do you want
to? Sure.
I told you I could tell stories. And I know I'm missing so many parts too. I try to be accurate, but I hope I'm getting it all. So what happens in 2010-ish, was it Willie or Carl? They contacted me and they said, "Hey, will you publish Donkey Kong, his Donkey Kong game?"
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, are you kidding?" I'm like, I had the beta, the prototype. I mean, from 2000 and whatever he did, 2004.
Carl did way back, right?
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh my god, Carl!" It's like everybody's waiting for this thing. I was like, "Yes, I'll do it." And we came up to an agreement how we would do it. So I was supposed to take care of producing it, getting the Game Board boxes, manual relays.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was going to go through Joe and ask him for the game board, but like the story I told you earlier, Joe was Donkey Kong questionable title, didn't want to put it on his game board.
Yeah.
And Joe one time, it's almost actually Joe and Arnold told me the same thing. They're like, if you want it, you do it yourself, right? This goes back to the tennis and this scenario with the game boards. And Joe told me, he's like, well, if you want to do it yourself. I'm like, well, Joe's not allowing me to use his game board. I'm like, I guess I'm gonna have to figure out another way to do this. So I had my own game board made.
Yeah,
I'm not a hardware person. Someone else did it for me. And that was actually by Joe not doing Donkey Kong on his game board is actually what relaunched Intellivision.
There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things play out. Because
it worked out for the best. At the time, you thought that sucked, but oh my god, looking back at it, that's what really got you into it.
Yeah, that's what got me. Because had we used his game board, he wouldn't have done Flintstones and Yogi on his game board. I mean, that's why we didn't do it before, because he didn't want and I didn't have a game board. So so once I got the game board, I'm like, ding ding ding, it's like a little light went off. I'm like, time to finish what we started. I think on my website, I think I worded it that way, right? It's like, what we started was to get these unreleased games out. And the idea was, we thought they were cool. And sure, Rocky and Bullwinkle, I mean, math game, right? And Flintstones and what was the other, Jetsons. Even though Jetsons actually kind of cool. I did a Super Pro version of Jetsons, and I actually kind of think it's kind of cool now.
I played it.
I changed the vocabulary, right? If you play the fourth, main? I think. Yeah, I have all the Intellivision games in. I'm like, I was trying to think of what else to use, but anyway, so now I get the game board, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And I mean, like I said before, when I got on the I didn't actually say it, but when I got on the CGEs, I mean, I met Keith out there, and I had a lot of conversations with him. Good. And I mean, everybody wanted to see these games put out, right? I mean, let's face it, everybody wanted them out. Yeah. And so I mean, here we go. I started releasing them, and I have to look at the order. I don't remember the order, what came out when, but the real idea.
I'm looking at the sheet. If you're like Donkey Kong Arcade, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Yogi's Frustration.
Yeah, so I focused on those unreleased games. Yeah. And I mean, there was pressure on not releasing them. So the idea was just get them out as fast as I could. Let's just get them done. And that's why you see so many come out, right? It was just a matter of just get them done. And once you're done with them, all the voices complaining about it'll go away.
They go away. Yeah.
And so one of the things I did, and for those who still have the pool billiards, they deep know. Yeah. They know, right? The deep pockets was a gift. I gave those away. Yeah. I think I made 100 of them. And I looked at, because I actually kept track of everything everybody was buying. Yeah. I don't do that anymore, but I used to do that back then. And I saw who was loyal, right? Who was really the collectors, who was really into it. Right. And they're usually the ones who bought everything. So as I was putting the boxes, because I think the last titles I did was, I don't remember, was Choplifter in there? What were the last titles I did?
Choplifter, Deep Pocket, Choplifter, then Deep Pockets in 2012.
What was before that one?
Scarfinger.
So it must have been Scarfinger and Choplifter. So when I did this, because I was selling 2 games at a time. Right. Oh, here's another trivia. Why did I do 2 games at a time? Because I had a shipping box that can handle 2 games.
Right on.
And I didn't want to have to buy boxes.
Look at that color. Kurt's always looking for games for his collection. Kurt's picking up a lot of homebrews lately. So they're not available anymore. They're long gone.
We were really good about selling out our inventory. I didn't look at this as a business. I've always looked at it as a way to share my love with everybody else.
Right on.
So what happened? So when we did the Choplifter and Scarfinger,
Yep.
I didn't buy the boxes that can hold 2 games. I bought boxes that can hold 3 games.
Okay.
So when everybody who bought those 2 titles, I just dropped it. I think my wife actually said, let's wrap those up really pretty. So she wrapped them up in this red paper.
Yeah.
And so we threw in billiards for everybody. And it was
cool.
it was kind of I felt like an end to Intellivision yet again for a third time. Well, second time.
Yeah, no, fair.
It felt like an end again because I'm like, we're done.
Those are gone. These unreleased games are now released.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on.
Right?
Hold on a second. Where is it?
Oh, what's he going to show us? Kurt, divert your eyes, Kurt, because you'll be envious. You'll be wanting that.
Who am I?
Oh, there you go.
There's my tennis. And Tron is special to me because the artwork was actually done by my nephew. This is the only one he did.
Very cool.
He wanted to do the artwork. And this one, I don't know if I ever mentioned it. I called the computer player TED, T-E-D.
Okay.
Was it? I think, what was it? Tennis Experimental Drone, maybe that's what I called it.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Well, there was a reason why I did that. Ted was actually the name of my brother, and he's actually the one I used to play tennis with.
Okay.
So what I did was, I'm like, I want to put his name in it, so I put Ted, and I'm like, okay, well, what does it stand for? I had to come up with something. But so I think so. So we finished with the Choplifter, the whole unreleased series.
The 3-pack. We're done that
level.
We're
done there.
Okay,
we're done. I got to go back. So actually, Choplifter was one of the unreleased games, but it was unfinished and buggy. Okay. It was buggy too.
Okay.
That was an Arnold, and I got to throw a shout out for him because I adore him. Arnold helped me with that one. Arnold is amazing with audio. So Arnold says, I'll do the audio for you, but you did a game. And same thing with King of the Mountain, right? Arnold.
Okay, yep.
King of the Mountains was a buggy game, right? It's if you look at the prototype, it had no sound, and if you finish a mountain, it would crash. The game would crash. So Arnold said, "Well, you take care of the game, and I'll do the sounds." Very hesitant. He was always hesitant to engage and help me out, but always an amazing job. So I actually fixed that bug. It was funny because I was working on the bug. I said, Arnold, because I think he was looking to fix the bug too. And I said, I fixed it. He goes, how did you fix it? And I showed him. He goes, how did you figure that out? And when Arnold asked me how I figured it out, I'm doing good. So anyway, so Choplifter was one of those that I was happy that we actually fixed the bugs, I believe, and threw the sound in there, and it came out, I guess like the Apple IIe version, right? So we finished there, and now we come into the last phase of Intellivision, kind of.
Yep.
And so I remembered, Arnold told me, hey, if you want a one-player version of tennis, you do it yourself.
Right.
I'm like, sure, okay. And so I
and you'd already started it.
I started hacking tennis, so we hacked tennis. And the problems with working on games, I'm sure every programmer, if there's any, I'm sure there's some out here listening to this, you get burned out on it, right? Because you're doing it, you're working. And by the time you finish, you played it so many times, you're burned out. So when I started working on games, you notice a lot of my ROMs, when I release them, they're usually in sets of 2. Like you had Tennis and Burger Time.
Yes.
And then you had Miss Night Stalker, we had the Miss Pac-Man, right? Night Stalker Pac-Man. There's a set of 2. I don't remember what it was. So what happens was I'm working on tennis, I'm getting burned out. I'm like, I need something to distract myself. So I jumped over to Burger Time.
Okay, yep.
And then the ultimate question, people's like, how do you make Burger Time better, right? Burger Time was perfect.
Awesome.
I mean, I love Burger Time, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there looking at Burger Time. I'm like, how do I make this game better? It's already amazing.
Yeah.
But I have always been a player. The reality is I'm not really a collector. I just don't collect stuff. So I looked at Burger Time, and I remember playing it back in the 80s. And I'm like, well, what didn't I like about Burger Time? And the first thing I didn't like about Burger Time was it only had 7 screens. I'm like, well, let's see. I made, I don't know, 100 for Stonix. I made 100 or more for Lunar Lander, Space Patrol. We hadn't done Miss Pac-Man yet. So I figured, well, I guess I can do some for Burger Time. So I just started banging away Burger Time. So I started doing screens for Burger Time. And I went back to tennis and Burger Time, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
So we are now at the stage, David, where you've actually started taking 125s and making them better. So it's you almost call it the hacking stage of Intelligent Vision.
That's
taking
right.
great games, even the most fantastic game like Burger Time, and finding something to make it an improvement over the original version, right?
Yeah, you know what's a challenge with that too is I have an opinion of how I can make the game better. Yeah. And I'm sure anybody who's listening to this right now is like, yeah, oh yeah, I have other ideas too, right? Everybody's got an idea how to make it better.
Yeah.
And I was in a bubble of just what did I think? And I kind of look back sometimes. I wish I had other people's feedback to help me make things better. Like what I did to Burger Time was kind of stupid, right? The freeze. You could freeze the enemies.
Okay.
And I think somebody went out there like, what purpose does that serve? And I'm like, that's true. What purpose does it serve? It was just something to throw in there. And
okay, I
wish I'd come up with something better. But everything else I did was amazing, so I'll just go with that. So this is where we enter the idea of making games better. And my idea of making the games better was, what are the games that I played as a kid?
Yeah.
That I wanted to keep playing, but I wouldn't because I didn't like them anymore. Well, Burger Time was one of them. I was like, I got tired of the 7 screens.
Yeah.
I knew them. And you go through the same 7 and you have to start on 1 and go through 7, go back to 1. It was boring to me. Hence why Burger Time has 70 screens, right? I just started pounding them out. And then I got to the idea, I'm like, well, I don't like in Burger Time if you have to start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and go through it. Because then you're going to be bored again. You'll never get to 70.
Right.
And hence I threw in the idea of randomly jump.
Yeah.
So it randomly jumps 10 screens. Because since there's 70, right? You think of 1 through 7, break those up by 10. So if you start the first screen, you will jump 1 through 10 to the next one, and then 1 through 10 to the next one, 1 through 10 to. So you might play more than the first, and then you wrap around. So hopefully most people are playing different screens most of the time.
Gotcha.
I actually had somebody email me once and said that they played all the screens.
Really?
I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, wow, you actually got to them, considering they're randomly selected, right? I'm like, wow, you played through them all. So
let's look at this question really quick. I'm going to show you this first. Just the Rickster. I played Super Pro Bomb Squad last night. It's awesome. I love it. 100%. Wanted to put that up there just to say yes. But Harvey's got a great question here. What's your approach to hacking these games? We'll get right back into where we ended off. What's your approach to hacking games? Start with disassembling and commenting, or other method? Like, how do you work on a game?
I mean, if I'm right, this is Harvey Decline, probably ColecoVision.
Decline,
yeah, I think he's done some great stuff for the ColecoVision world. I think he probably. I had a little shady past. I think Harvey probably remembers that. Yeah, I did some stupid things. I did some stupid things in the past. Yeah.
Harvey's RTO Flash.
Yeah.
Right there.
I mean, I'll admit the stupid stuff I've done. So what does it start with? I mean, I have to disassemble it. I mean, over the years, I've found techniques.
Yeah.
It depends what I'm trying to do. But I'll start with the disassembly, and I start with a brief commenting of it. I'm down to a rhythm now of looking for specific things. And then at that point, it all depends what do I want to do to the game. Like if it was Burger Time, right? It was the first thing was I had to disassemble and reverse engineer basically how are the levels in the code. Right. So like Kingdom Mountain, I did the same thing. The Kingdom Mountain saw 2 releases. In the second release, which I really wanted to do in the first release, but that's another story. We'll go back to if you want to. But so Burger Time, Kingdom Mountain, I had to reverse engineer how were the screens made.
Right.
So, I mean, I just had to focus just on that, because I mean, there's code for specific things like the graphics or paths and stuff like that. And then actually, like in Kingdom Mountain, I did actually, I did it for Kino. I did it for a few games. I actually wrote another program where I would kind of like graphically draw, like what Arnold did with Burger Time, graphically draw it out, and my program would convert all the code. So I actually had to write that program to convert what I designed into code. So yeah, so it's disassemble, comment, and then attack what I want to do first. One of your favorites, right? Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, we were getting towards that.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's how we first met, was over Battlestar Galactica, because that was, I think, it was either Defender of the Crown or Battlestar Galactica. So yeah, let's swing it back towards where we were before. You're talking about that, and we'll get on to the Battlestar Galactica and that other tier of games to talk about. But I can remember I saw, must have been on Atari Age, that you were selling them, and you sold those ones yourself, correct?
Galactica.
I'm looking at the list, because you told me the other day which one the last one you did yourself was.
I forgot which was the last one I did.
Anyway, I can remember getting it, and I got it from you, straight from you. I bought it from you. I remember that. I probably sold the email somewhere from
you. I fell in love with you, Pete, when you said you loved Battlestar Galactica. I'm like, I like this guy.
Right on. I had the video out on that game when I reviewed it, and it was like, listen, this is what got me the most. That's why I always say the comment about your games is you take games that are my absolute favorites. I love these games. I love Space Battle, and you made it better. How the blazes did you take something that's amazing and make it that much better? And you did.
People have to give you credit for me doing the voice games, kind of, because it was you. I didn't. You remember I asked him, like, you said, "Oh, I love Battlestar," and so I emailed you like, "What are your top games?" And one of them you said was Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad, yeah.
I'm like, well, if I'm gonna start Bomb Squad, may as well finish with Spacebar
there you go.
B-17. I'm like, may as well finish.
But
B-17 actually started me on Bomb Squad.
Right on.
So yeah, it's a credit to you on that one, Pete.
Right on. Like, because you take the Bomb Squad is such a fantastic game, and it's got all these little things in the original that make it, that drive you friggin' nuts. Like, if you want to crank it up to play the hardest level, great. You can play at that level and think at it, but there's so many stupid things, like the controllers move so fast, the parts move so fast, you can't get them where you want to, no matter how good you are at the game, and you fixed all that. Every other little pet peeve about that game.
Yeah. I mean, I think I started off with games I had as a kid.
Right.
And if anybody who knows me well enough was sit there and ask me, well, when are you going to do Sea Battle?
Yeah.
I had Sea Battle as a kid. For those of you who want Sea Battle, it's in the works. But anyways,
it's in the works. There you go.
So,
first, guys.
Yeah, I had it as a kid. I mean, I got to do Sea Battle, right? So
I have that on my list of things towards the end. We'll talk about what else.
There's a whole bunch of stuff on the list.
But, yeah. Let's slide back. Let's go back to the, because you were talking about Super Chef BT. So that was the first hack that you released. But truth be known, the first hack that you ever worked on was your tennis one, and that's the one that got you into the whole thing.
I think we released them both at the same time, I thought.
Okay. On your list, they're the same. They're 2013. But I can remember you telling me that the exact same story you just did. You told us the other day that tennis, you were working on tennis, and you just got to a point where I got to do something else for a few minutes. Yeah. So that's when you were off to Burger King, and you got Burger King. Yeah. Burger Time. And you got it finished up. And then you went back after Burger Time was done, you went back and finished tennis. So tennis gets credit for the reason that you're hacking the game.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, tennis was my love, and
so
I'm repeating here, but yeah, I mean, when you wanted something, you do it yourself.
Well, that's what's going to motivate you, is doing something you love yourself. Like, it's like, if I hated making these videos, would I be doing these videos? No, I like doing it, so you do it. So you like tennis, you're going to work on tennis. That's motivation, right?
Yeah, actually, like to Harvey's question. Tennis was one of the games. I mean, I reverse engineered the entire game. I mean, everything.
Right.
I mean, I had to throw an AI in there. Right? I mean, I had to make it one player. That was a challenge. How do you program an AI to not lose but lose?
Yeah.
So here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
The AI is not programmed to miss. Think about 2 on that one.
Yeah.
You have to beat it.
You have to make it when it misses, where it cannot return it.
Yeah, when it misses, it wasn't programmed to miss.
Gotcha. You've
It
done something to beat it.
it just misses sometimes. There's no randomness. So I mean, anybody who plays tennis wonders like, oh, what's the trick to get the guy at the computer to miss? There is none. The computer isn't programmed to miss. If it misses, it misses. And there was a timing in the code of how some of that works. And I kind of really, it took a while to get that down. But then tennis was my love, and I put a ton of love into it. So,
well, there you go.
So what happened? So after tennis burger time,
they're in the books. What are you looking at now? What are you thinking? Okay, that was great. These were successful. Let's do something else. So you pick your next couple.
Yeah, well, what I did is pick my daughter, right? So she is like, she's at a point where she's enjoying games.
Yeah.
And the two games that she enjoyed playing was Shark and Bump and Jump.
Gotcha.
And so I'm like, okay, let's play Shark. And while we're playing, 2-player modes, 2-player game is great. And either one of us would die, and then we sit there, and then you sit there waiting for the other person to die. And it's usually, she was young, so she would usually die first. And of course, you don't want her to lose interest in playing. So I'm looking at this game, I'm like, this isn't right. So of course, that evening I went and hacked it and made it where we can come right back in the game, and hence Shark 2.
Yeah.
The 2 is kind of one of those naming conventions that it's a 2-player version.
Okay.
That's actually not necessarily the second version, but actually a 2-player version, because the enhancement were really done for 2 players.
Okay.
Which is really, if you think about all the games I've done is more for 1 player.
Yeah. Take 2-player, make it 1.
Yeah. The Shark 2 was really meant for 2 players. Like some people say, oh, should I get Shark 2? I said, only if you are playing with somebody else. If you're not, stick with the original. The original is amazing.
Well, I'll tell you the other fix you did to that makes it 10 times better, and it is 10 times better, is putting the dash button on the side.
I don't remember where that one is, but
yeah, because in order to do the dash, like the little dash,
that's right.
It was on the keypad. And that sucks because part of the trick to that game is learning getting the routine down of going up and down across the shark's tail. Very doable, manageable with the side button. Very difficult trying to push the keypad.
Yeah.
So I still say like Shark 2 timer is great. It's the dash function. Like I say it's great. I like it better as well, but the dash function is what really gets me on that game. But I enjoy that game thoroughly. So.
But so my hacks has always come from what is it that I don't like in the game. Yeah. And so like Mazatron, right? I mean, I owned Mazatron, and besides Space Hawk, which I wish I could have returned that game. Mazatron was one of those games I'm like, I want to like it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help me like it. Just getting stuck in the maze. And I remember there's this one part of the maze that when the screen was going by fast, I was like, you just couldn't get through it. So I'm like, well, I played the heck out of these games. I played the heck out of Maze. I played the heck out of Solar Sailor. Yeah. And I told you this the other night, Pete. I mean, I didn't play Disc. I know this was like super popular, but that's not what I played. So, but
I've talked to 2 or 3 people who actually had them all, like yourself, just like yourself. Didn't have Tron Deadly Disc, but had the other ones. Is like that seems backwards to me.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I was the opposite, right? We didn't have Mazatron. So that's so cool, though. It's neat because everybody experienced different things. That's why different people, it may be the worst game in the world to you, but they absolutely love it because they grew up with it, learned how to play it, and it's just second nature to them. And it's to take some of these games which are second nature to you and then make little adjustments like a Shark. Perfectly logical reason, right? Mm-hmm. So you could play with your kid and you guys could both play for 10 minutes, not 2 of you play and you either quit after she's done or she waits for you, and that's no fun.
Yeah. So, and she wasn't about scoring points. And I think that's why I changed it to a timer.
Yeah.
Because I realized it's like, she just wants to play and have fun. It's like who wins, right? And sitting there for playing for an hour isn't a way to win. She loses attention span's not that long.
There you go.
So I figured timer is a great way to end the game, and you can actually say, hey, I won or lost. So around 2014 is really when I did the Shark, I think, and Bump and Jump for her. And I actually sat on those titles. I wasn't really looking to release them. Those were the two titles I did literally just for her. And then she grew up. And then I said, I may as well release them. And then I actually went back years later and actually released them.
I'm just looking at this. Remember I told you earlier I didn't see a couple of them like boxing. I don't see Bump and Jump on there either on that list.
I think it's I thought I put that on the free game version.
Well, no, it's there. I'm not looking at that.
Oh, you mean the list of
history section? Yeah, the history section.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Night Stalker a little bit though. Tell us a little bit about Night Stalker. Because that slid in Night Stalker and Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man, I could see doing that conversion. That's pretty cool, but it's not revolutionary to me to the game. It just makes I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's a freaking fun game to play. But Miss Night Stalker, you really did some fantastic things to it already. Again, well-loved game. And it's a lot better as Miss Night Stalker. So tell me about that. How did you come on to that one?
So, I did Stonix. I did all levels on Stonix. I did all the levels on Space Patrol. Yep. Donkey Kong, I didn't do anything on Donkey Kong. Yep. And I mentioned Donkey Kong for Ms. Pac-Man because Ms. Pac-Man, Carl did build those games. So whenever so Carl contacted me and he said, hey, listen, you did all these levels for these other games. Are you interested in doing the levels for Ms. Pac-Man? I mean, how do you say no to Carl, right? So, and then he wanted to release it. And I'm like, I love Ms. Pac-Man over Pac-Man. And sure, why not? Yeah. And it was one of those, how many levels do you want, Carl? And he said, just do whatever you want. And what did we hit on that one? I want to think 26.
26 levels in Miss Pac-Man? Wow.
I think. I don't remember. I don't remember, but I remember doing them, and the same thing happens. I just got burned out. You can only do so many things at a 12 by 20 screen, right?
Yeah.
That was the problem I had in the Burger Time. It's like, my God, how do I make more screens? So I'm working on the screen design for Miss Pac-Man for Carl. He's coding it. Same thing like we did with Stonix and Space Patrol. It's just the what do you call that? Not chemistry. It just worked. The programmers doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. We're working together, inspiring each other. Just keep it going.
Yep.
And Carl's just cranking away doing Miss Pac-Man. I'm doing the levels, and I needed a distraction. And I remember chatting. I don't remember exactly how I played. I remember chatting with Carl. I think I told him I was working on Night Stalker, and Carl made the comment somehow something about Miss Night Stalker. And so I went back to that Intellivision Productions website, they have on the trivia. And on there, they talked to trivia about, they wanted to do Miss Night Stalker. And I think, Carl was like saying, dude, you got to change something in the game. Change the character, make it a girl. Right? And I'm like, well, perfect timing. We're doing Miss Pac-Man, Miss Night Stalker. It just kind of worked in my head. And so that's how the idea of Miss Pac-Man came out. And then I read the things that they would have done. I think they're talking about bazookas and stuff like that. I don't know if I implemented anything that.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for the super chat.
I don't think I implemented anything that they mentioned in there. But Night Stalker was a game I owned as a kid, which I loved. Except the part I didn't like about the game was the beginning. You had to get to 5,000 points to get to the blue robot. Yeah. And then you had to get to 10,000 or whatever to get to the white robot. And then whether 15 or 20,000, I'm like, this is it's painful ramping up levels, which, like I mentioned earlier, right, level design was always something I was trying to be attentive to. And I know I'm sure someone's going to hear this and say, oh, but that game's too hard and that game's too easy. It's hard to make levels for everybody, right? And
that's right.
I try. So I did with Miss Night Stalker was I figured I'd make the robots a little more random, right? So the bats stay in the game all the time. Yes. And sometimes you can get to the invisible ones, and sometimes you go back to the white ones and blue ones, and you just keep bouncing. Yep. And I'm not sure how it happened, but one of the features I love the most is the heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
depending on which robot comes out, depends the speed of the heartbeat.
Oh, nice. I didn't notice that because it
Yeah.
doesn't change in the original.
No, it doesn't change the original, but that heartbeat has always got me nervous.
Oh
I
my
figure if you
God.
make it faster, it's going to make you more nervous.
Next time we play that, Jeff, on
Yeah.
the stream, we got to
Oh.
watch for that
Mm.
for sure.
So, yeah, so I thought that was
Thank you
one
so
of the
much,
coolest.
Spy Hunter for Intellivision. You never know nowadays. They've made so many different games. They may come up with Spy Hunter someday. It's possible. It's possible. You never know. So thank you very much for the super chat, though. Really appreciate it.
But
Okay,
that's how we did. That's how. And then of course it's like, well, I as I've already talked about many times, I design levels.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I've got to do multiple levels for Miss Night Stalker, right? So there's like 9 of them. So
9 of them, and I like the fact that it's a random number of bullets when you pick up the gun. I also like the fact that the most frustrating thing about playing Night Stalker was that the gun would reappear and you were not going to get it. You were done. There was no way that you were going to get it. You die and hope it comes up at a better spot. And so they took that right out of it and put the gun up above the bunker.
Yeah, every time you die, when you die, the gun appears above you. Because I thought that was annoying that you had to go chase down a gun and you got the invisible robot out there, and good luck getting to it sometimes, right? The other thing also is I think the original game had the gun would appear in 5 different places. I think it was.
Yeah.
In this version, it appears literally anywhere in the maze. It's completely random in the maze.
Okay, anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere. Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the next game. We hit so before we get into the one I really want to talk a little bit about, which we've touched on already, let's talk about Mystic Castle.
My wife loved Thunder Castle. And I remember the old catalogs that used to come into the blue catalogs, I think it was, that used to come with the games. They advertised Mystic Castle.
Oh, yes.
And so it took a while for me to, because I didn't stay into the scene. It took me a while to realize Thunder Castle was Mystic Castle. When I think I realized it is when we got the prototype of Mystic Castle. That was one of the unreleased games, was Mystic Castle. Now, I didn't release it as an unreleased game because Thunder Castle already came out.
But yeah, okay, sorry, I was a little, but yeah, it might have been one of the prototypes that you had there, Mystic Castle, which is kicking around. I mean, it was, but it's not your version. But
right.
They picked that up though. That's what Intellivision Inc. did already and put out as Thunder Castle.
Thunder Castle, right? But
So
we had the prototype.
Other than the name, it was done, right?
Yeah, if you look at Mystic Castle, I think it's pretty much the same. I think they cleaned it up a little bit. I don't remember. I know I compared it, but I thought they were kind of close. I don't know why they didn't release it as Mystic Castle. They did Thunder Castle, but once I realized I saw the prototype in Thunder Castle, I'm like, oh, we got to go back and rename that back to Mystic Castle, right? But
there you go.
So my wife, I played Thunder Castle, and my wife, she goes, oh, I love it, it's so pretty, the girly thing, right?
Yeah. And great music.
And if she was a walker right now, she would tell you, oh my God, Thunder Castle, the music and the screens are beautiful.
Yep.
And then I told her, I said, yeah, but playing it, I'm not a huge fan. And so really I had to hack that one really more for her because she liked it, and I wasn't going to play a game that I didn't like. So, I mean, same thing. How do you adjust levels, and how do you make the game play more fun? Because I played and it felt like it dragged on trying to catch the rats or what have you.
Right. It did. It does. Thunder Castle has got so much okay, how do I put this? Thunder Castle was a great game. It had a lot of potential to be a lot better because it suffered from just what you said. It was like drawn out. You would beat your head against the wall forever trying to get the rat, then get the demon or whatever. You just couldn't friggin' do it.
Yeah.
You fixed it.
Yeah, and the other thing also is that you can start the game at different levels, right? You can, which is like I talked about in Night Stalker, right? I don't like the idea of having to start the whole beginning to get to when you actually are, your level that you play well at, or you're challenged at, better said. So the Mystic Castle, you can start at different levels. If you're good at it, just start at a higher level, and so you can be entertained with it. And I'm actually really happy with how that game came out.
Well, I'll tell you this right now is that Jeff and I both played Thunder Castle quite a bit, and then we both started playing Mystic Castle. And it's like kind of a point we're going to get to maybe a little bit later on, whereas once we've had these hack games, why do you go back and play the original? And we play Mystic Castle quite a bit, both of us on streams and stuff, because people enjoy watching it and listening to it, and we enjoy playing it now.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound fair, Jeff?
Oh, definitely. And but it's like, why would I go back to Thunder Castle? I have Mystic Castle now. You know.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going to be true for a
lot
lot
of those. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that, and some people have reached out, and I love when I hear that because I don't know, it makes me feel good, right? But I appreciate when people enjoy the games I put out. I mean, I'll be honest, that's the biggest compliment. I don't care about selling a ROM or game, but when someone comes out and says, I like this game, I mean, that's everything to me. It's like, that's why I do it, right? It's a love to me, and hopefully it's a love to them. But, you could do the smallest things. Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast was not on my list to do. It never was even close to being on my list. And then I don't go out to Atari Age much. I mean, yes, I do post on Atari Age when you see ITV Dave. That is me. But I don't really go out to Atari Age much. It's usually Jonathan who hooks me and says, "Go look at this thread." Yeah. So I happened upon a Beauty and the Beast discussion, and I think by the time I saw it, I think there was like 3 pages already. I don't know how far, but there was the discussion was going a little bit, and someone made the comments like, maybe David will fix it. I'm like, don't say that. Like,
challenge accepted.
So that night I opened up Beauty and the Beast because I love Beauty and the Beast, but just the controls are horrendous.
Yeah.
It just
I call them slippery.
It just wasn't fun. And so I understand. So when someone says, "Hey, can you fix Beauty and the Beast?" I'm like, I like the game too, but the controls aren't fun. I mean, of all the games I've hacked, that's probably one of the least I've done. Yeah. But I think just the control change.
It's subtle. It's not visible. It's not like when you make massive graphical changes or musical changes. And there's some graphical changes just with the day, night, and words at the bottom and stuff on the Super Pro Beauty and the Beast. But what I noticed was I was involved with we discussed it quite a bit. Just it was minimal changes, and I hadn't played it. And then I finally did play it because we were talking about a month and a half before I actually get into it and put out my my video on it. And the one thing that got me is the biggest thing I said negative about Beauty and the Beast when I reviewed it, the very first episode of the 125 way back in the day, was the slippery controls, and you'd fall off the building or you'd get hit, and then you get hit again and hit again and hit again. And those were the things that I complained about, and those are the things that you fix. You can't see those things. You aren't even going to notice them at all if you just pick up Super Pro Beauty and the Beast and play it, unless you've played the original extensively, I guess is the way to put it. So, I loved it. I thought I saw huge changes in it because of the controls, just as you're speaking of, and so much more fun because of those controls.
Yeah, so I'm going back to Miss Night Stalker. So someone had said, make scrolling screens in Miss Night Stalker.
Okay, yeah.
And I like the idea, right? I mean, a lot of people have given me some really good ideas. God, hockey with the hack to slap shot hockey. But we'll go back. Let me finish the Night Stalker story. So, and I'm like, I thought about the scrolling screens, and I'm like, that would be interesting. But my focus on everything I've done, and I probably push a little bit on some of the games, Galactica being one of them, is I want everybody to play the game and feel the nostalgia as if they played it back in the day, but it's better. Okay, so I don't like to make a ton of graphical changes for that reason, or huge changes to the gameplay. I'm not saying I haven't, right? But I want you to pull it up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm playing original tennis. Oh, by myself. I don't need a second player." Right? It's still the same game. It color changes a little bit, and little messages and things a little cuter, more people, whatever. But it's still, you should still feel the same game. I mean, I know there's a lot of homebrew guys out there doing new titles, and they're doing amazing stuff. Beautiful stuff. I mean, new games, and I'll be honest, I'm a little jealous sometimes seeing how the work they do is amazing.
Yeah.
But my focus, and I guess I'm very fortunate that everyone else like to do new stuff. My focus is the nostalgia of the games themselves, not just the console, but the games.
Fair. Yep.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right on. And you talked about a little bit. We've talked about this game several times, like how we first sort of met and started talking was over Battlestar Galactica Space Battle. So let's talk about that one. When you first decided to go there, like, did you always realize it was supposed to be a Battlestar Galactica game from way back in the day, or did you learn that and then decide to do it, or was it something you even thought of independently and then it just sort of fit?
I owned Space Battle as a kid. It was actually one of my 5 games I owned.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. The tennis, Space Battle, skiing, Sea Battle. I used to watch Battlestar Galactica as a kid.
Yep.
Well, actually, not really, because they didn't show Battlestar Galactica where I lived. They had it only in the States. But I did see Battlestar Galactica when I would come to the States. But I never associated them until there's that video. So I don't know who got it. I'm glad they put it out there of that Mattel Electronics promo tape or something.
I wish I had it here right now to show, but yes, I've used it in my videos several times. It's in my 125 on Space Battle, of course, where that was a promo before the Intellivision was ever released.
Yeah, and
Space Battle,
and you see they pan the carts,
yeah,
and you see Battlestar Galactica Space Battle. I'm like, oh God, why didn't I ever put those two together? But that's when I first noticed it, because actually this goes back to the library. God, we're going full reverse. I was collecting videos also for the library. So the library was actually released on CD at first. Yeah. Was it 2 CDs or 1 CD? No, I think I started on a CD and then it ended up being on a DVD or something. I don't remember. Actually, where is it? Where is it? I wish I got pulling that earlier. I forget about the library.
I'm answering
got one around here somewhere
while you're looking.
Got it around here somewhere.
There you go, Kurt. There's my copy of Battlestar Galactica.
But that library was the number 9. I think I spent over 9 months of scanning materials for it. Oh. It was talking about labor of love. Dan Blitz, going back to Dan Blitz, he had the ultimate keyboard collection, keyboard component collection. So he had the Jack LaLanne and all those tapes.
Oh wow! And
he was one kind of egging me on to do the library. He's like, hey, we need a catalog of this stuff because before we lose it. He actually he mailed me his entire collection. Oh, and so I actually scanned all the manuals for all the keyboard component stuff, and everything he had, I scanned it. And so like the ECS manuals, I mean, that book's 100 pages or something. I mean, and back then my scanner was really slow. It was painful. But so that, going back to where you're going with the Battlestar Galactica, so I happened upon that video someone put on YouTube, and I saw that, and because I was trying to put every video I can in the library too, right? Because that was the whole purpose, right? Yeah. Trying to consolidate all this material so people can have access to it. Which, for those who don't realize, it is on the website now for free.
There you go.
What? I mean, I spent 10 months. I think I sold those CDs for like $10 or something like that. I had to buy a printer because I actually printed the labels on the disc. Oh, wow. It was. I was proud of it. I thought it came out really nice.
There you go. Absolutely.
I think I recouped my money that I paid for the printer and stuff, the scanner, and time. I never, that you don't recoup time, but no. So that's how I got into. That's how I found out it was Battlestar Galactica Space Battle.
Gotcha.
And then that was a game I had as a kid, which I thought was an amazing game.
Yeah.
Until I grew up, and I realized, 5 squadrons, game's over. Even when I was a kid, I'd play it for, you feel like you play for 10 minutes, the game's over. You're like, kind of done. Yeah. And just being a Galactica fan, Jane Seymour's in there. And I figured, hey, let's pay a little homage to the original concept of the game, and this hack away. And Cylons to me is always something that just keeps coming at you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you just put 5 squadrons out there, that's not keep coming at me. That's just 5 squadrons, right?
Right.
And, you know, with the idea of, well, how do you ramp up levels and make it easy enough for people who don't play well, but hard enough for people who do?
Yes.
So actually, I took the concept of and I don't think I thought of it intentionally at the time, but I took the idea of Astro Smash, that the game progressively gets harder as you're playing.
Yeah.
So when you play, I think 150, the hardest level is 150 you need to shoot down. But when you start the beginning is slower.
Yes.
And as you get to certain stages, the game gets faster and faster and fast. So when you get to the 120-ish count, I think it is, the game's pretty fast. So, you know, I try to take that idea into, you know.
I'm well aware of that because I can burn right through it for quite a while. Then all of a sudden I get to a point, it's like, good God, I can't do anything.
Yeah. So that game actually progressively gets
the way it should be.
Yeah. So and then I went to town on that game because, I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, I owned all the 4 Intellivoice games. I remember paying, I think it was like $80 for the Intellivoice unit, and then I bought all the games for like $30 a pop. And I don't know why, I just had a fascination with the voice game. So, you know, Galactic Space Battle was one of the games I owned as a kid, literally, you know, 10-year-old kid. And then I had a love for it, had a love for Galactica, had a love for voice, and I just went all out on Galactica. That was the one game I gave my all. I mean, throwing the Intellivoice in there, I think that's one of the titles. Well, I'm proud of a lot of my titles, but that one I was really happy with how it came out. I really loved Galactica. That's one of the titles I don't think I've looked back and said, oh, I should have done this.
Kurt asked if the overlays look the same in the as the original Space Battle. They're the same buttons that do the same functions, but it's a totally different graphical overlay.
Yeah.
So,
I
haven't got a picture. I'd put it up right now, but I haven't got a picture. I opened up my file. I don't have many of the overlays. I've got quite a few here, just sort of scanned so I could show them real quick or look at them real quick for my videos off to the side. But I haven't got that one up. So sorry, I can't show that.
Who did the overlay for that one, but I love that. I loved how they put the ship, the Galactica ship, on the buttons. Yeah, that was. Yeah. I love that. Yeah,
they're nice. It was very well done, and I can still remember that quite clearly. It was $50 game, which is pretty cheap at the time.
Well, Galactica actually, and this isn't a story. I don't think I haven't talked much about this story, but the work I did on Galactica actually led me to solving another problem.
Okay.
So there was a thread, and again, you know, I don't. If anybody's listening to this, don't go out to Atari Age and put things. I don't go out there very often. I'm probably not going to see it, but I did happen upon an Intellivoice chat. They were talking about the international versions of Space Spartans, and so they had the German, the French, and the Italian. It was Bill. Oh my God! You guys are saying from Intellivision Productions or whatever entertainment now.
Bill Fisher?
Fisher, yes, Bill Fisher.
Yep.
He was out there on Atari Age, and he was talking about these international versions of Space Spartans.
Right.
And they didn't post the ROMs or anything. And I mean, I don't know what Bill thought about me, right? Because I mean, all the controversy I like to do. Anyways, so I was a little hesitant to post out there and ask for anything, but I said, well, let me try. So I asked him and say, hey, do you have those working or something? I mean, someone can go find the thread and see the actual conversation, but and so I mentioned something about, hey, you know, what's going on with those or something. And he mentioned about how Joe Z looked at it and he couldn't figure them out and he couldn't get them working. So I said, hey, you willing to share the ROMs? He's like, sure. And he sends them to me. I was like, oh my God. And I think it was like that afternoon, I had the voices working in the German, the Italian, and the French, and that was due to the work I did on Battlestar Galactica because I had to reverse engineer all the Intellivoice. And then, of course, I reverse engineered the Intellivoice on all the voice games, including Space Shuttle.
Okay, that.
And what's the other one?
PJ's
the other AD&D. the other AD&D, the one that unreleased for one.
Tower of Doom. It was
no, that's the third one, the fourth one.
Oh.
The prototype. There's a prototype of it. There's voice in that one too. I reverse engineered that one too a little bit. So, so once I did all that voice stuff, and Bill gave me those ROMs, I mean, it was only a matter of really minutes that I was able to solve it and get them working. And actually, on the voice anthology, I've included the Italian version of Space Spartans.
Yeah.
And that's how that came about. Was Bill released them, and then I'm pretty sure I released the working versions on that chat. I mean, of course, there were Bill's, right? And he released them to me. Of course, I mean, I got to put them back out there for everybody. The problem with those international versions is that they don't say the numbers,
right? Because that's built into the actual Intellivoice itself, correct? Same reason that you have the DS version, like behind me, right over my shoulder, the DS version right there. The numbers aren't, when you play those games, the numbers don't come up because it's not in the ROM, it's in the Intellivoice. So,
and the way they coded it was to read the international version of the res ROM. So I can't get the numbers working in English. And I've thought about actually finishing it. I mean, I can do it. One of the things I've actually challenged myself, maybe by the time I fully retire, is to actually make one version of Space Spartans that has all the languages. But I don't know if I'll ever get there. But anyways, that's how that was a kind of a little spin-off of Galactica, how that happened with those.
That's great. I love the change you made to it. I guess, that's well seen. I got a video out there. It's 3 or 4 years old now, guys. If you're interested, my take on Battlestar Galactica is one of the like 7th, 8th, or 9th episode of Inti Homebrew spotlighted it on it, and needless to say, I gave it a very good rating. So, so let's get up to some. After that, you had let's get up to some of the newer ones. Let's talk about the Tron game. Well, we did talk about the Tron game some already with your what you did with Mazatron, made it playable. Tron Solar Sailor, take some of the stuff that made it unplayable out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, no one liked that code. Nobody liked that code at the beginning. All right, you have to write this down, right? I mean, Mazatron and Solar Sailor 2 I own. And I actually did put a lot of work in Maze. I know somebody emailed me. They said, "Oh, I like the speed of the screen moving." Yeah, I mean, I like the way Maze came out. I mean, you do have to collect numbers. I added, I think, voices to. Yeah, Mazatron didn't have voice, did it? I actually added voice to Mazatron.
You added voice to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the game was kind of rough to begin with. If you were like me, you force yourself to like it. My hacked version is way more fun.
It was probably one of these games, and we'll go on to Solar Sailor afterwards, but Mazatron's a game that many, many people own. I would say probably 80 to 90% of the people who own Mazatron never saw the MCP.
Oh, because it's so hard to get to the damn chips and understand them and all that.
Yeah. And I have now in the your version. I still always wish that Mazatron is a game that should be able to be beaten, though.
I mean, you do. I think on my version you do beat it.
Okay, well then I'm really, really bad at it because I've never beaten the MCP. I can't figure out what the place do. You do beat it in your version, oh yeah.
Well, the thing is you have to match the numbers. I think on the top left it shows like 1 0, and you as the numbers are coming up, you have to match them. And the one problem that they made before is like you actually had to move your cursor all the way across and line it up and shoot it. It's really hard. So I actually, on my version, I thought it'd make that a little bit easy. You can just push left, right, and actually jump through the columns.
Oh, okay.
So that at least it makes it easier to get to each side to shoot the numbers. It's a lot easier. And then you can go up and down, but you don't have to fight with the controller trying to get lined up so well because you can kind of out-align it.
I played it a lot back when it first came out. We did some videos with Rev and stuff for the promotion when the physical copies come out. Masterful physical copy, by the way. I loved the physical version of that with the cards and stuff that Rev put in it. He did such a great game and does such a great game, or does such a great job putting out your, or how do I put it, publishing or distributing your published games or your physical games now. But Solar Sailor, one aspect that I want to talk about real quickly is, again, the second screen of that. Another one where 90% of the people never made it to the second level, like where you fought the MCP. But now I used to have the pen and paper out there to get the numbers, but I was memorizing it with yours. What did you change in that aspect of Tron Solar Sailor to make it so much more playable?
Just going back real quick, the problem is I actually completed Maze and Solar Sailor as a kid. I actually, was successful in getting to the chips and getting to the second layer. And so what happens when I worked on those games, I figured everybody did too, and maybe that was a mistake. But
I did, but not Maze, but I beat Solar Sailor, but it's a friggin' chore, and I had pen and paper.
So Solar Sailor on the second screen was really hard to catch those numbers.
Yeah.
And that annoyed the heck out of me. So it's actually a lot easier to catch numbers. And also, you have to remember where the ones and zeros goes.
Yes.
You can actually push a button and it'll actually tell you again the code. So you don't have to write it down. It'll tell you again.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So and really, you just have to remember where the ones go, I think is what it was, really.
Great job. Who was Jeff Bridges is going to be in the new Tron movie, which I saw that just today. Cindy Morgan sadly won't be. No, she won't be, unfortunately.
Oh, there's really going to be a new Tron movie.
Yeah, they're working on it. It's in Vancouver right now. They're filming, but Jeff Bridges was announced he is going to be in it. So Cindy Morgan, of course, passed away over Christmas, very young. So let's talk a little bit about some of the newer games that you've put out. I always want to touch bases is because you haven't done any physical copies yourself. And we talked about this. The last one that you did was, what one did you tell me? Shark 2? Which you released on the board?
My daughter did the artwork on Shark 2, but I didn't release that as
Didn't you sell it board only, and then you sold the
someone else did the other?
Somebody else did that. Okay,
I think so.
We talked about this the other day. I can't remember which one it was, but now it doesn't really matter. You've been working with other distributors and such to get your games out physical copies because other collectors. It's one thing to have ROMs with the to play, but the collectors all want the physical copies. So you got to have a good relationship with the Intellivision Revolution putting out your games.
Well, Jonathan used to live kind of near me. He would drive by where I live, and he's actually stopped by. And I mean, John's awesome, right?
Yeah.
He loves Intellivision. He's kind of same like me, just loves sharing with everybody.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, I mean, I used to write the manuals. I used to get the overlays printed. I mean, not the quality like Rogers or these other. I mean, some of these other producers just I don't know where they're getting their overlays. Are amazing. I had overlays. They kind of sucked, but I have overlays. You know how to get the boxes made, printed up, and all that, and then fold the boxes, get cartridges, card shells, and assemble everything. It's a ton of work. I mean, I have pictures of my office just full of boxes because I would actually produce 4 games at a time.
Right.
Just because of the cost of boxes, right? The more you printed, the better price you kind of got. And Oliver was shipping them from Germany to begin with. So, I mean, Oliver's boxes I thought were amazing. But I got burned out of doing it. And also, this is at the time when, was it NT Basic? I think it was getting more popular. And then the more people were actually making games and other producers were releasing games. And I just kind of saw the world shifting more towards digital ROMs. We're all getting older, and I mean, we're all still here. So, but my mind, I'm thinking we're all getting older, and people aren't going to be that interested. And I still want to share the games with them. So, I figured I'm just going to shift to a ROM concept and just get away from carts. I was tired of doing all the production. I was getting burned out, and I'm like, I still love this. So I'll just code and not distribute. And so I came out. I think the first ones I did was what did I call it? All-Star Baseball, or Super Pro Baseball. I think that was one of the first ones I did. And someone came out. No, so what I said, I'll do cart only versions for those who really want a cart. I'll do cart only version. That's not a lot of work, right? Just program the game board and ship them. Not a big deal. Not too hard. And someone, I think they called it Lonely Hearts or something. I think they did the boxes, and then I forgot who's I just don't remember his name. did the manuals, and I don't know if someone did overlays. So they kind of did that on their own, and they were really nice. They reached out to me, and I think I approved the image and some of the text or something, but I didn't have to work that hard. They did all the work, which I'm so grateful for that they did it all. So we kind of start off with that, where they just kind of, third party did their own things, right? And then Jonathan said, "Hey, I'll release them for you."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Please, thank you," right? I mean, because I know people want the games, in physical copies, CIBs. I was just, I have a kid. I want to focus my time on my kid. Everybody got tired of folding boxes, and I got tired of shipping and printing labels and manuals, and just, so I was very appreciative. I still am very appreciative of John doing all these releases for me.
I'm trying to think of how many he's done for you now. They're taking a quick look at the list. Of course, we have just going back. What was the first one? Am I right in saying Super Pro King of the Mountain? And then
I think
maybe not. I'm thinking Super Pro King of the Mountain was Intellivision.
So this was actually the first release.
There's the original, yeah.
It's a original one. I want to think I released the Super Pro.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did, because what happened was the artist who did the work for me, Gil, friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love his art. I mean, you go take a look at Flintstone's box and Yogi's box. No, actually, if you want to see the most beautiful artwork, look at the Super NFL Football.
There you go.
Card, and then put that next to World Series baseball. And if you're not convinced that NFL artwork was done at the same time,
all right.
I mean, I am so proud how he did his artwork. It was amazing. So what happened was he was doing the artwork for King of the Mountain, and he came up with some designs, and I'm like, Gil, that just doesn't have all the aspects of the game. That's why when we look at this one, right, you have the boulder, the bears, the river, the mountains, right? I mean, it has all the aspects, and that's what I wanted, was all the aspects of the game. So we released the original one, and then I come up with a Super Pro version, because I just never felt like I really finished King of the Mountain. So just to clarify, I'm working King of the Mountain as a prototype. It was buggy, and for some reason I loved it. And so I wanted to fix it and release it and complete it. It was a ton of work just to make the game work and finish it, and Arnold did all the sound. By the time we got just that far, I was burned out.
Sure.
And I felt accomplished. I felt the game was good.
Yeah.
But it only had like 6 screens, I think. And so when you climb a mountain of, 12 screens, right? You're repeating screens. Well, I mean, come on. I mean, I designed all these different screens. So I thought about it. I'm like, King of the Mountain's just not done. And so, of course, some years go back, and I'm like, I've got to finish it. And so Super Pro really came out from the idea that I wanted more variation in the game. And I couldn't do it on the first, because I know some people, I don't like to re-release my games. People have asked me, hey, will you update it? Will you re-release it? I'm like, no, I just don't like to. Now I know with Same Game Robots, and I know I've done it with King of the Mountain, right? But special situations. I mean, Same Game Robots, the second version has human voices, right? That's my voice, my daughter's voice, my wife's voice, right? So
it's so cool.
And so King of the Mountain was kind of one of those. It's like, I have a love for it, and I felt it could be better. So what was the question?
We're getting onto the games. I asked if that was the first one that he had released for you, but maybe
so I think that's where I was. So Gil had done this, the artwork he originally did. I thought I could put on a second game.
Okay.
It was kind of homage to the work he did, because he spent a lot of time on the artwork, and I really appreciate it. And I hate throwing the artwork away, because it was really, I thought it's really beautiful artwork. Yeah. And so that's how that artwork got on that box. I actually just reused what he originally did.
But okay, so let's go. So Rev has done the Tron Anthology for you.
Oh, there's a story behind that one.
Space Invaders. I know the Tron Anthology. He was working on Tron. It wasn't an anthology at the time. It was Tron. What was it called?
It was an anthology.
Like 4 carts and.
Yeah, it was. I love John. I love messing with him. He's so easy to have fun with. So what happened? John was he has a love for Tron. He loves Tron. Yeah. I'm sure he's pleased to see this new movie coming out.
Sure.
So
I was all signed up for the four cart release too, by the way. Back in the day,
so John is coming out with, he's telling me, he's like, oh, I want to release Tron. I want to release all the Tron games in one package. And I'm like, John, they've already been released. I mean, I just said I don't like to release things twice, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, John, they've already been released. I've released Tron Adventures, right? We did that one. That was one of the unreleased games, which I thought that was a cool one. I said, John, Maze, Disc, Solar, they've all been released. Why are you going to release them again? He goes, I just love Tron. He's like, I love it, right? And I'm making fun. I'm making fun in a funny way. Not. I'm kidding. I was kidding with John. I love John. He's awesome. So he wants to do this. I'm like, John, don't do that, please. Don't do that. Don't do it. And he's like, I'm gonna do it. He, like you said, he had the design of all these 4 games and all this. John, don't do it. He's like, I'm gonna do it. So I'm like, tell you what, John, I'm gonna make. Actually, I think this was over years. We were having this conversation, right? He sat on it for years.
10, 12 years, I'm thinking.
I knew he was sitting on it for some years.
Yeah.
And I was kind of getting a little scared he might actually release it. So I think I told him this story, and I'd seen it in fun, right? And so I said, tell you what, John, I'll hack the games for you. And because I wanted to do Maze, and I wanted to do Maze. Then, of course, Solar Sailor just followed. Even though I think I finished Solar Sailor last, And I had to do Disc. And so the problem with Disc for me was I wasn't a Disc player. The one thing I always remember reading people saying is like, I wish the Disc would kill them on the way back.
Right.
I'm like, well, that would definitely put a spin on the game. So Disc, I just kind of played it a lot and try to get a feel for it and just put in there what I thought would be good. And so then that way, we got all the Tron games bundled up. And now, Jonathan, I'm happy with him releasing it as an anthology. And actually, and I told him, I said, Don, don't do this 4-card stuff. Your costs going to be way too high. You have to sell it for too much money. Do it as a single card. And I think Nano Chess, came up with the menu and the music, which was that was all him. Yeah. Which was awesome. Beautiful job on that. And so we got it released as 1 card. So John was happy. I was happy. And hopefully the collectors were happy, and it was a win-win for everybody.
All the collectors were happy who got their hands on a copy.
Yeah, and it was. I think the games are better. I love them. I love them. I'm happy with how they came out.
Fantastic setup. Now you have one recent game that was not Rev, but you had a television collector put it out for you. So tell us a bit about the background of that. Of course, we're talking Lock and Chase, Revenge of Lupin.
Yeah. So, Luke.
Luke.
I was spelling it Luke. That's why
his logo's down in the corner because he's the sponsor of my channel, right?
All right, cool. So Luke contacted me, and I have a ton of respect for this. So Lock and Chase 8K was one of the unreleased games. I know there was a story that it was supposed to be released on cart. I don't think it was ever dumped from a cart. So I want to say that the 8K version came from the unreleased collection that Dan got. That was one of them.
Okay. I know that the ROM was kicking around because I had the 8K ROM for a long time.
It was
time without ever knowing where it came from. How would I know, right?
It was from that collection. It was probably me. I was the only one who had the guts to do that. You can call it silly and stupid, but anyway, so and I have a ton of respect for it. So I guess, and I never really talked to him about it. So if I'm wrong, this is pure, I'm assuming here. Luke contacted me and asked me if I was okay with him releasing it, which I'm like, why are you asking me? Right. And I'm guessing, right, is it because he knew they came from my collection and he was showing respect. And I like to call out, awesome people that do things like that. So I have a ton of respect for him in doing that. And I said, Luke, it's not mine, right? He has a ROM. He could burn it. Who am I to say no, right? So I said, hey, Luke, tell you what. Of course, do whatever you want with it. I will not complain. I said, hey, but before you do that, how about we hack it and actually give the collector something more than just a ROM that's already out there?
Yeah.
And so that was probably one of those games that I actually did for somebody else, kind of.
Gotcha.
So I just started playing Lock and Chase a lot. I mean, I had tried it before, but it wasn't really something I cared for.
Yeah, understood.
So I just started playing it a lot, and I mean, I'm happy with how it came out. Heck, I even liked the name, Revenge of Lupin. I thought that was kind of funny.
It's great.
So I mean, so that's how the whole Lock and Chase Revenge of Lupin came out, was because Luke asked about the 8K version, and I'm like, hey, let's give him something more, and that's why he released it, because he had asked me for it, and it was all his release.
It's always a fantastic story when you get some cooperation like that that works out so positive, because we got Revenge of Lupin, which is a fantastic game, and we also got the 8K version later on, right? Which is, you know, at a lower price, because it's the packaging for this.
Oh, it's beautiful. I've never seen it. That's beautiful.
I should be careful showing that. It's still got the thing inside it. There you go.
I never saw that package. That's beautiful. Yeah.
I don't know if have you seen my video where I unboxed my Lock and Chase 8K, David?
No, I have not.
Well, I'll send you the link to the one that's not available to the general public, and you'll.
Okay, I'd love to see it. Yeah, that's a pretty box. I mean, Luke does beautiful production.
Oh,
it's beautiful production. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So, you know, this gets us up to the latest game. We talked quite a bit about Super Pro Beauty and the Beast, but now that is going to be coming. So for everybody out here, that is coming. That's coming in a physical copy. You can get it digital now from Intellivision.us, from the Intelligent Vision website, the ROM's vault. $5. How do you beat that? And you get I call it the Intellivoice Anthology, from also $10 for all 3 games plus the Spanish version of Space Spartan.
Italian.
Did I say Italian or Spanish? Italian.
Spanish. You did that.
Okay,
before.
sorry.
Italian.
It's Italian version. It's the Italian version. Yeah, my mistake. Well, fantastic games, and that will be coming to Rev as well. Rev will be releasing a physical copy of that for you. So that's pretty exciting. That's a good year.
I'll beat on Rev on this one. Hopefully he watches this video one day.
He's been in here chatting all night.
I hope he's here. I'm going to tell him right now.
He's been chatting all night, giving you grief.
All right, Rev. You know I've been after you. I've been after Rev. I completed the voice anthology last year. I think I've been sitting on it since November before.
Yeah, we worked on it. When my videos come out, those were the final versions at that point.
Yeah, that's when I was. You actually got the beta versions while I was working on it. Yeah,
we worked up through it. Yeah,
and you gave me a lot of good ideas. I think on B17
right? And Bomb Squad are my thing. I like both of them, and something as simple as we're all now 55 to 65 years old, so those damn gray planes in the blue sky background are too hard to see. Make the planes white.
That's all Pete. That's all you, Pete. I remember you emailed me and said, can you make the planes white? I'm like, oh, okay. That was hard to find in the code.
Game changer.
Yeah.
I could see the planes. How many times there's a plane here, I can't see it, and then all of a sudden it would get bigger and it would go off the screen, and now I can see it. So
the funny thing is, when you mention that, I'm like, why didn't I think about that? Because I always complain about it too. I just didn't remember. It's hard to remember everything you would change to a game, right? After 30, 40 years.
When we were 14 and 15 playing it, we could see the damn gray plane. We can't anymore because we're not 14 or 15 anymore.
I never liked them gray. It always annoyed me.
There you go. So that is the next thing being released. Of course, if you guys haven't checked out those games, go and get the digital ones, play them, or wait for Rev to get the physical ones out. But it's a keeper. Those are all keepers. They're incredible freaking games. There's been some hints at this in the chat already, and I want to get back to it towards the very end. And what is left we talked about this the other day. I prepped you a little bit. What in the 125 is still left that you would like to do? Is there anything left? Are you looking for ideas or whatever? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if I had to say one, it would be Utopia.
How'd you give it away?
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm not giving anything away.
How much time do we have left? I know I got tons of stories. Because like you guys were pointing out, like Space Invaders, right? I think
I love it.
Space Invaders was it's almost, I feel like I'm just starting to do games because someone makes a comment, right? Space Invaders happened. Was it an email? I think someone emailed me and they said, "Hey, can you make the Space Invaders smaller?" And I'll be honest, when people ask me to do something, I don't usually do it because I mean I'll never. I mean, people always have requests, but when they ask me, I'm like, that should be pretty easy. Yeah. Well, there you go. Now we have Space Invaders, right? Just because someone asked me to make them smaller, and then and when I did them smaller, I'm like, well, you should be able to do 4, 5, 6, 8 columns, whatever. I forgot how wide it goes and the height. I'm like, I guess you should make that adjustable and all these other things, right?
When you start working on it, you see the little things, and there's more and more that you can improve, right?
Yeah. Space Barnes. I wanted to hit on Space Barnes because that's really a game. It's really one of the games I loved as a kid. I loved it as I was growing up. At the beginning of Intellivision, when I was living in Germany, I played Space Barnes a lot. I actually have a high score. I mean, it's only 2.5 million, but I have an image on my website of it.
Yeah.
Space Barnes is just one I've always loved. And actually, that was probably one of those titles that when I started hacking it, I really stopped at the whole, like Harvey asked, right? I really stopped at the whole initial disassembly because I didn't know what to do to it. I just like, this game's perfect. I don't know what to do to it. And I had to stare at it for a while. And then I just, I don't know, I just started getting into it. And I really love how Space Spartans came out because it was so hard to come up with ideas to change. It's almost like Burger Time. Yeah. But I think the things I added to it, because it's like the one thing I always wonder is like, how do you know how strong your starships are? Which one should you place where? Well, now you can see the strengths. You know which one has more strength, right? Yeah. You can see visually. You don't have to. The one thing I didn't like about Space Barnes, you always had to do voice on everything. You know, what's the status of my shields and hyperdrive and all that? Well, now you can just see it on the screen. So you don't have to do all the voice. So it's not that I changed. Well, actually, I fixed the bug, right? There's a level bug. That was actually one of the funnest things that I happened upon because as I was working through the code, I'm reading it through the code. I'm like, this code is wrong, right? The original code. I'm like, this is wrong. Why are they doing this? And I went out to the trivia and I read where it's a level. I'm like, oh,
what is the level bug? I'm not aware.
Oh God, I have to look through the comments. There's something.
It jumps a higher level or something, or
no, I think it was an overflow or something. The number went negative, I think.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, I didn't have to add code. I just went and had to modify a couple original lines to fix it. And that was actually surprising to me. It's actually a big change. I mean, not that anybody would really realize it. So what happened? What was it? Something. I forgot what level it was. When you get to like level 15 or something, 15 screens.
Well, that might be why that I'm not aware of this because that's probably never happened.
Well, it was some number, some upper number.
No, understood. Fair enough.
When you get to it, when you go to the next screen, the calculation would just jack itself up. And when, like I said, I think it went negative. And when it went negative, it just kind of messed the whole game up. And so then you could reposition your star bases and all that stuff. And
I vaguely remember something about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I found that I fixed that code. So what happened was you could only get up to so many. When every time you go to a next level, they would put so many alien boxes on the screen, not total numbers, but actual boxes on the screen.
Okay.
And that bug stopped it from doing so many. By fixing it, you can even get even more on the screen.
Oh, wow.
So these people that got, the 10 million, 20 million, I don't think that's going to happen again because you're not. I would challenge anybody who got that world record, play my version with the fixed bug. Yeah. You're not going to do it. I don't think you're going to do it. But I mean, I love Space Spartans. I really put a lot. I mean, I put a lot of love in most of my games. That one is really one I really love. If you guys are Star Raiders fan, Star Raiders back in '82. I remember when it came out, or '81 or whatever that was. But when Space Spartans came out, I'm like, oh, they did Star Raiders for Intellivision, and then they don't have the flying stars.
Yeah, Space Spartans was not in one of my not in my top 10, but it was not far. It's probably in my top 20. But your version significantly did improve it for me, and it would damn near be in my top 10 now. I'll tell you that, because it were those things that you added to it really did help the gameplay a lot.
Well, I like where the control stops moving, because in the original game, if you're moving left, let's say, and you let go of the disc, it just keeps going, and then you have to fight it to come back.
Right.
And this version just stops it, and then you can come back.
And I'll tell you this as well: when you first did that, and we were testing it, I'm so accustomed to the original that I found it difficult. But as I played it more and more and became used to the method that you have it set up as using, it is much more controllable, but it takes a little bit of practice before you're going to see that advantage. Yeah.
But I really love Space Spartans. I mean, that's one I'd love to promote because it's just one of the best. Your favorite, Bomb Squad?
Yeah.
Somebody actually emailed me today. They said, "Oh, I love Bomb Squad." They may actually be on here. They said, "I love Bomb Squad." And they said, "But playing on level 3 is going to be the proof." I'm like, we've already saw that. I know Pete played. We're good.
Yeah,
Pete played it
on level 3. I think I played a level 3 just in 10 minutes just to do it, and did it. And I've done it several times. I've done it on streams. I've done it in videos and stuff too. Because that was a level 3 was unplayable because you couldn't control your pieces enough it was just frustration. Frustration.
And then you have B-17, right? B-17, and we didn't hit on this one. One of the games I never owned, but for some reason I have a fascination about it.
Yeah.
World Series Baseball. Both of those games to me, actually, I think the Intellivision areas had I forgot the programmer's name. Don
Brower. Eddie Don Brower.
Yes, they had
Eddie
him
Don
on
Brower,
it. And as I listened to that, because that's when I started working on it. So I said, I've got to listen to what he had to comment about it.
Yeah.
And he mentioned, he goes, "Yeah, it's a simulator." I'm like, "It is." I'm like, "So is B-17." B-17 was like so slow and painful.
Yes.
And so was World Series Baseball. So I did what I did to B-17, I did to World Series Baseball. So any of those who think World Series Baseball is just a simulation, try my version. It's actually a game now. And B-17, right? I mean, I played B-17 as one of those games I owned, and I'm like, oh, I have to play because I paid for it. But it was one of those. I was like, it's so boring. You're sitting there waiting to fly over the channel, right?
I loved it. I loved it when I was a kid. I loved it always, not just when I was a kid. But I understand totally what you're saying. And you grab your version, and we went through a lot. That was the first one that actually you and I worked on, where I did testing and testing and testing. And you would make the adjustments, and I'd say, "Let's do this, let's do that." And then you said a couple things. I can't remember what it was. You said, "I want to do this." And I said, "I don't know." And you did it, and you were absolutely positively right. I can't remember what the blaze it was, but this idea that
you liked where you could drop 6 bombs and collect points on it
for each bomb.
Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't like that.
No, you're absolutely right. One bomb on a target is all you need to do. If you're dropping 2 or 3 bombs, it's just because the targets are hard to hit. But that also led me to the fact that one thing I really, really love is how hitting those damn anti-aircraft guns are worth some points, because they should be, because they're hard to hit.
Yep. Yeah,
right?
1 point was ridiculous. Yeah.
And 5.
And you shouldn't collect 200 points for hitting the same factory 6 times, right?
And plus now the whole game is wrapped around 3 missions, and you're in and you're out, and you're attacking and you're battling and you're fighting planes. You're not sitting there doing this, dodging, trying to move around so the flak doesn't hit you while you wait 5 minutes to get to the next target.
Right.
You're going the whole time, and it's a friggin' blast to play that game.
That's what I wanted to add with Spacebar. So I like endings, like, Shark. I made a timer. The game ends.
Yeah.
Actually, Mazatron ends. Solar Sailor, I think that already ended. And so while I was doing space, so B-17, right? We added the ending on that.
Yeah.
3 so missions. When I was doing Space Spartans, I think someone commented to me, is like, "Oh, put an ending to it."
We talked about that.
Yeah, it was you then.
You and I talked about that.
And I just, I just watched the movie 300 the other night. I'd seen it before. Yeah. I mean, Space Spartans is, you don't end, right? And I didn't want to, I wanted to keep the homage to the concept of Space Spartans, right?
Yeah.
To where it just,
okay.
You don't, and that's why I didn't put an ending to Space Spartans. And that's kind of trivia, because why didn't I do an ending to Space Spartans? I've done it to other games. Because I didn't want it to end. The Spartans never finish. So that's why I wanted to throw that out there as a little trivia.
Fantastic point. Yeah, I like that. That makes perfect sense to me. Right on.
So you were asking about, I guess we're running out of time. I know I keep talking.
We're good, but I mean,
I didn't forget your question. I didn't forget your question. So
what's coming down the pipe, and what do you want to do on the 125 next? And somebody else mentioned earlier today, and I can't forget it. I can't remember who it was. Now, Salvatore, I think. Can you make an ending to Swords and Serpents?
Yeah, it's a game I never really played.
No, do you know?
Like when I did if you look at the library, actually, I mean, this is before. I mean, I didn't have a good recorder. I just did GIFs of all the games. So I mean, I played every game because I had to do the GIF recording. So I can't say I never played it, right? But never really played with intent, like Microsurgeon, one I never really played. So I mean, can we put an ending to it?
Like, do you understand the story where you get to the dragon and they ran out of code, so they were just you would walk around and there's no battle, there's nothing. It just you play forever. Knights and wizards come at you till you die.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a ton of games. Like, can we put an end to Sword and Serpent? Sure. But you know, it's almost like it's like ideas talking about earlier, right? People always have ideas of like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Like Casey, I don't know if he's out here, right?
He was earlier.
I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but he contacts me, right? And please don't start emailing me. Actually email me. I love to hear from people. So actually, please email me. But so Casey emails me one day and said, "Hey, will you hack horse racing for me?" And I was actually telling the wife this the other day. I'll say this out loud, but I get annoyed with silly requests, right? Like end up ending the Sword and Serpents. I'm like, that makes total sense, right? We should do that.
Yeah.
But like Jonathan's on here. Oh, put snow level. I will never put snow on my games. So
that's what the original Beauty and the Beast was for. Slippery, it's snow level.
Oh, there you go. That's what it was. We should have. We should make it white and make it slippery. But so ever since John said, please put a snow level, I will never put a snow level on my screen. Now I will avoid it. But anyway, so Casey emails me and he goes, "Hey, will you hack horse racing?" I said, "Give me a list of what you want." And everything he put on his list made a lot of sense, but it didn't add to me, right? It didn't add to the value of playability. So I did hack it for him. And here's a plug for Casey. He does horse racing. I don't know. I know you got his channel, right? He does horse racing competitions.
Exactly.
I think
next time up and bet on the game.
I think next time I'll probably use my version. So I hacked the horse racing for him as a request. I'll probably release that one because you're asking what do I have queued up. I'll probably release that game.
Yep.
It's good for him, right?
Sure.
Like I know one thing, like you can bet, like in horse racing, if you bet, you can't re-enter the bet, right? So like I have where you can re-enter the bet. Right. When you're in the race and you see the furlongs, I actually have the number above it showing you how many furlongs are left.
Yes.
Okay. And I think I did some other little dorky changes. But for him, it's beautiful, right? I call him dorky just because I never got into horse racing. I just did his request.
No, fair enough.
Yeah. So and so like Sword and Serpents, I mean, when I finish, I mean, email me. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many people would actually email me Sword and Serpents, right? So
it's a notorious game that ticked off a lot of people back in the day.
You know, one title, and we're probably running over time. I don't see the clock, but I gotta go back and hit one title: Super Pro Boxing.
Yeah.
That's actually been surprisingly been one of the best sellers of mine. I'm blown away that it is. I'm like, boxing, who cares about boxing? I did boxing really with the idea that I just did it, right? And I put a lot of love into that game. It was, I mean, putting AI in there, putting the boxer in there, it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Tennis was kind of easy. Make the man move over to where the ball is going and have him swing. I mean, kind of easy. Boxing is like, how do you mix up what punch he's going to throw and whether he's going to duck? And I mean, how do you tell it, you know, have it to do all, you know? So, and then on top of that, give it levels, right? Make it easier fighter versus harder fighters.
Right.
And the one time thing, Pete was you and Jeff were playing boxing. I don't know if you noticed on the color. So the boxer is black, but the color of the number shows which boxer you're fighting.
Oh no, I did not clue into
No,
that.
I don't know either.
He was fighting a blue boxer. You were red fighting a red boxer.
Oh, okay.
So you actually had the same characteristics.
Now,
Now,
it's random what one you fight against, correct?
The one you're fighting against will be in the colors of the number.
But when you start the game, it's random which one you get.
Yes,
like,
that's right.
Fight against. You pick yours,
right.
and then it's a random one you're against.
That's right.
Cool. I did not realize that.
And then to add difficulty to it, I think when you play one of the harder levels, I forgot how I did it. The color will be white. So you will not know which boxer you're fighting against. You won't know the characteristics. So that's one of the ways I add difficulty by you don't know who you're fighting.
How ingenious is that? That's pretty good. I like
boxing was one that I actually looked. I'm like, okay, well, they came out with slapshot hockey. They did chip shot golf. They did championship baseball. They did super pro. Not super pro. Was it World Cup soccer? They did championship tennis. So they converted all these sports games to one-player games, even though championship tennis sucked. Anyways, so I looked through all the sports games. I'm like, nobody ever did boxing. I mean, they came out with wrestling.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, that's not good, right? We have to do boxing. And hence how we end up with boxing, because I just felt like it had to be done. I am blown away how popular boxing has been.
Well, that's awesome.
Another very popular ROM that has surprised the heck out of me. The ECS bundle I did.
That's cool.
Well, I mean, I loved the ECS. So I have a fetish with keyboards, right?
Yeah.
Hence my ColecoVision Atom, best keyboard ever made, besides the IBM Selectric. But so I mean, the ECS keyboard's no fun, and actually playing the games requiring keyboard isn't fun, really.
Yeah.
So I figured, let me make controller versions, and you can still use the keyboard, right? But so let's make all the controller versions of all the ECS games. I did them all. I even did Jetsons. It took me a year to realize I missed Jetsons. But okay, I didn't do Mr. Bits and Bytes, I don't think, because I just never play Bits and Bytes. I don't think that game doesn't require keyboard, I don't think. I don't know. Anyways.
Well, no, I think it does, but I think it's more programming. So what do you how are you gonna do?
Yeah, I guess you have to. So and Flintstone's keyboard fun, right? Didn't do that one. But
right.
So while it's in there, I figured, well, let's update all the games, right? Mind Strike, Mind Strike, for those of you who haven't played Mind Strike, it's like a chess game.
Yeah.
David Warhol, what a creative game. I mean, that's an awesome game. You got to try it.
I've never. I got to do it. I got to play it.
Try Mind Strike. It's an awesome game, and now with the controller version only, it's awesome.
And I have your controller versions on my Ultimate, so that's good.
And I hacked a little bit to make it a little bit faster. And then World Series Baseball again is awesome. Super NFL football, I didn't do much. Jetsons, I know I did some things to Jetsons. It's actually kind of fun now.
Yeah.
So the ECS has done really well. Slapshot hockey, I got to swear on that one too. I think again that was one of those rare ones. Somebody emailed me and said, "Hey, something about updating Slapshot hockey." I'm like, "Yeah, why? It's okay. I mean, it's okay." And they were Canadian. I don't remember their name. If they're out there, sorry if I don't remember people's names very well. And I was in constant communication back and forth with emails. And he's like, well, I'm a big hockey fan, of course, a Canadian, right? So he goes, I'll tell you all the rules. I'm like, okay, tell me one by one. He says, this one, I coded it. This one, I coded it. So Slapshot hockey, I didn't put the curves in the wall that they requested. I'm not doing it. But if you play my version, it's faster. It follows the rules. It actually came out really good.
I played a fight for the Slapshot, or
it wasn't a huge hit, I don't think, but I don't remember because I guess I released on card. I think we did. Or was card on board. Anyways, but back to your question. I mean, thank God I don't have a list of all my games because I got a lot of stories for all of them. But so you're asking what am I doing next? So
Yeah. So like
I started Utopia a few years back.
Yeah.
Problem is I never owned Utopia and I never played it.
okay.
And I know someone did the ColecoVision version, and I've always wanted to look at that. I just never looked to see what they actually did to it.
It's a beloved
and
game. And
I tried to revisit Utopia. And actually someone just emailed me, I think it was yesterday, saying, hey, it'd be kind of cool if you did a Utopian sea battle. I'm like,
Utopian theme. I think they were in earlier. I can't remember what the name was, but they were in here earlier. They said they had emailed you about Utopian sea battle. So.
I started, like I said, you started Utopia. I think it would take someone working with me for me to finish Utopia, because I just don't know the strategies, right? How would the AI player play? I don't know. I've never played the game to know. So I would need help. But Utopia was one of those, I keep starting and stopping. And the crazy thing is I think Utopia is probably one of those really popular titles.
Yeah, very popular.
I would guess, but then I just haven't had the motivation. Oh, there you go. Glenn Cates, there he is, the music guy. Glenn is the one who actually emailed. I think Glenn, was it today you emailed me or last night or something?
That's cool.
So there you go. There's your answer, Glenn. I don't have to email you now. I think Glenn actually gave me some details, but I actually need a lot more. It's like I need to understand like what strategies would you implement, because I would have to write the AI for it.
It's friggin' hard. I'm telling you, that would be a difficult one to do, because there was always a lot of questions about what the different buildings actually did anyway. Because you could use some absolutely obscure strategies like don't build anything but factories, and you'll get the biggest score.
Yeah.
It's a little odd anyway.
Yeah. And so Sea Battle is a game I've been thinking about probably for
Sea Battle
15 years.
Yeah.
I have an idea of how to do a one-player version of Sea Battle. Right. I'll put it out there now. It wouldn't be what everybody would think of. And so I think that's why I hesitate to do it.
Yeah.
I love Sea Battle. I used to play that game with my brother also. The two games I was really good at was Sea Battle and tennis. And then the third game I was good at was baseball. I usually used to win baseball. I used to always win Sea Battle, and I always won tennis. So that's why I've always wanted to do Sea Battle. I was kind of messing around with Star Strike actually these last couple of days.
That's nice. That would be a great one to do too. Find something for it. I'm
struggling on what to do to it.
I agree. It's really a very simple game.
Yeah. And so I've been just messing with it. It's almost like a musician, or I think it's a music on it. It's like a musician. You just kind of sit there and just play with keys, and maybe something comes up and maybe it doesn't. So I'm kind of playing with Star Strike. I keep thinking of Utopia because people keep asking me about it. If I can just find the right person to work with and give me all these ideas, we could probably slam it out pretty quick. I started auto racing. I know I revisited my website and kind of cleaned stuff up, and I saw I actually did post something on auto racing. I've always thought about going back and doing something more to auto racing. So Space, the unreleased version, right? Space. Can I say the word right? C.
Yeah.
That was a prototype game, and I think I thought I updated it before we released it on cartridge. So I actually hacked Space
Cant, we call it.
Cant, there you go. That's actually what I used to call it, Cant.
There you go.
And I made that actually to be the Super Pro Astro Smash. So of course the code lines are the same, right? Pretty much. And I've always wanted to go back and put what I put in Space Cant into Astro Smash. I never got around to it. Like Space Hawk, I wanted to do something to it, but because that was originally Asteroids. I just never really finished that. So I kind of have several games kind of on the queue. And
they're saying in there Popeye. But it's pretty hard to do. Well, no, it would be harder to do those. A lot of talk around here. We've talked about before. Super Pro Space Cobra, fixing a lot of its shortcomings, but that's more. I don't know. It's like
I don't know that game very well. I played it, but
it's one thing to take a good game and fix the little the things that are to make it better. It's another thing to take a game that has some serious weaknesses and try to make it better.
You
Isn't that
actually,
fair to say?
on a piece, when we were talking the other night, you mentioned it's like, well, I only have a limited library of hacking, right, of what was released.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to hack the games I played as a kid or something that I'm tied to or I love for some reason.
True.
So when you said I have a limited, number of games, I really have a limited number of games because I focus on the ones I love.
Sure.
I don't know which ones I haven't done yet. I actually, what I do every few years is I go through the list of games, starting in alphabetical order. I'm like, which one haven't I done yet? And then like, oh, I haven't done this one. I like this one, and I pick it. I don't know how many are left on that list. I mean, Super Cobra it's almost like Star Wars, right? I don't have a ton of love for Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back? I mean, I don't say never to anything because if I just get in the mood and I feel like coding, who knows what's next?
One real quick comment. We'll wrap it up here. Rickster says Super Pro Vectron. That game is miserable, and we have Vectrix. I played it. We got to talk more about that one too. I think because you've never done anything with it past that, right?
I thought I got it to a completed state. I mean, it's just the game itself it's challenging.
Yeah, I'm not finding much. I was having a hard time playing the new one.
Yeah. I do believe. I mean, I coded and I played it, so I mean, I know what I coded, so I know what I should do with it.
Yeah,
I think the controls are much better. The problem is, it's like what you said about space bars, right? The controls, it was different, so you had to get used to it.
Yeah.
Well,
I got to give it more.
In my Vectron, if you're used to the old controls, mine is completely different.
I couldn't do it, but I got to go back to it because I didn't get the time into it to make that adjustment. 100%. That makes perfect sense, David.
And I think that's a challenge because I played it. I'm like, oh, it's actually better. Not that Vectron is a game I love, but I do believe the controls are much better. But you really have to reprogram your mind, kind of think you're playing another game to get used to the new controls, which is not something I like to do. I want you to think of the original game, but Vectron, I just totally took that idea and threw it out the window and said, I'm going to redo controls completely.
Guys, we have now been on here for 2 hours and 17 minutes, and it feels like 17 minutes. But I think we should call it a night. At a great spot, finished up with what's coming down the pipe. There's a lot still coming down the pipe, right, Dave?
I'm not done programming, so I'm
there you go.
I'll keep beating on it. I just hope people keep enjoying it.
Chat, it's been awesome. We've had lots of people in the chat, lots of interaction all night long, asking questions, making suggestions, and listening to all your stories. David, I could sit and listen to you for another 2 hours, no problem. But we just that would be too long, I think. So, man,
Pete, thank you for the videos you've done. Your review of Galactica it's very inspiring. I like I said earlier, I didn't say this, but I don't sell ROMs to make money. I mean, like you said, $5, right? Yeah. And I debated I should just put them for $1, but then it's like $5. When someone I don't go out to Atari Age because I don't care to see some comments sometimes. Now, keep in mind, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been through situations that it's not fun, right? And I want to love this. So I've just got to the point that I'm just not going to communicate with anybody. I'm just going to do what I do, and I hope people love what I do, and I put them out there. So why do I sell the ROMs? Because when someone buys a ROM from me, it shows that I look at it, they show that they appreciate what I've done, and they want to play the games. So. And that's where my communication occurs is someone buys a ROM and maybe someone emails me. I love emails. I love to hear stories from people. I love to hear someone say, hey, are you willing to do something to this game? Can you make it better? I mean, critique, sure, it doesn't really get us anywhere, but give me ideas. I love to share this stuff, like the Slapshot Hockey, right? What do I call it? Go for the Fight for the Cup.
Fight for the Cup.
Fight for the Cup. That was an awesome experience working with your Canadian friend. I wish I remember his name. Sorry. They loved it. It was awesome put out there. I'd love to see you love Galactica. I love to hear when people tell me that I'll never play Thunder Castle again, and Mystic Castle is it. That's inspiring to me, and
that would be
that's
awesome.
what keeps me going. And I hope people have enjoyed this. Pete, I appreciate you doing this. I honestly didn't want to do this video. Your awesome energy and just your love for this stuff. And my wife told me to do it.
Thank her for me, because I know I didn't say it. That's who talked David into coming on, but also on camera, just so to share everything and introduce to all, because like I told you, Dave, off the get-go, my purpose of being here is just to share all the information we can about this old video game that we played when we were kids. There's nothing negative to share. There's nothing. It's all positive. It's a freaking video game, and I just love doing it, and I love meeting you guys, and I appreciate what you do, because I will always play these games. I'm sad because I'll never play Bomb Squad and B-17 Bomber again, because I have the 2 new ones that you gave us.
And I appreciate everybody who's come out here, and anybody who's watched the video, and anybody who loves Intellivision. I mean, that's why we do it. That's why you do it. That's why I do it. I continue to be inspired, and I continue to want to bring more joy and fun to people. And sorry, Rick, that Vectron still sucks, but hey, can't fix them all.
No, that's right.
Can't do them all. God. Even I tried. I gave Vectron a try. I really did. But
awesome. Guys,
you're not supposed to talk about the games that didn't work out, right?
Well, there you go. But that's part of life too.
We're almost 2.5 hours in, and we didn't even talk about the Striker Super Pro Bowling.
Oh my God! And yes, and thank you for sponsoring the bowling league this year, the Intelligent Vision Bowling League. Gave us all a ROM copy of Striker so we could all play it. And man, another one of these games. Bowling is one of my favorite games of all time. But you just added enhancements that made it better, and just
that slow ball. That slow ball is painful.
Oh, wicked, eh? And Super Pro Bowling, you took Striker and you made it go fast, straight through the pins, as opposed to slowing at the head of the plate. So yeah.
And the right-hand, left-handed players too. I like that one. Yeah. Little things, but that was one of the other games I owned as a kid, bowling. That was it. I knew there was another one.
How did we manage that and go 2.5 hours and not even talk about bowling? Just because
I hope people enjoyed it. I told you I could talk all night. I know we kind of went over, but I hope people have enjoyed it. So
we have a lot of people here still right to this minute. So this is fantastic.
I appreciate everybody. That's why we do this, right? We all share the same love, and email me. You give me some suggestions. Sword and Serpents. Maybe we'll put an ending to it.
There you go. All you guys, make sure you check out Intellivision.us. There's a ROMs vault. There's a free section with many of these games in it. Battlestar Galactica Space Battle's in your free section now, right? Can't beat that.
Did I move that one? I don't think.
I don't know. Double check it. But you know what?
That's one of the ones.
If it's not the ROMs vault, $5. Intellivoice Anthology or Voice Anthology, $10 for 3 games plus the Italian, not Spanish, Italian version of Space Spartans as well. So those are all there right now. And there's more games to come, and it's a great site. There's lots of other information on the history of the games, history of Intelligent Vision. Man, it's fantastic. Just one of the all-time best Intellivision sites out there. I've been following Intellivision.us, that's the website, Intellivision.us, for a lot longer than I've really followed in depth into the scene like I am now, before I ever thought about meeting David, for example. And David, I got to say this: we've communicated by email a lot, but thank you very much for coming on here. It's a pleasure to meet you, pleasure to talk to you, and once again, thank you so much for everything you do for this community and the great games that you've made over the years.
We do it for everybody else. So Pete, I don't like to plug, but I appreciate it. Because I'm not out there selling games. Hey, but on the website, Intellivision Library is out there. I don't know how many people actually use it. I mean, the great source of all scans of all the manuals, a lot of miscellaneous things. I mean, there's a ton of information in the manuals. We didn't even hit on the website. There's Intellivision Lines, which was a what do you call that? A fanzine, a fan magazine from back in the day. So God, I remember. Yeah. Somebody had a website. I don't remember their name, but they mentioned it. It took me, I think, 3 years communicating with the person who did that fanzine to actually get all those copies. So I post. He told me it's fine to post them out there, and we got the Intellivision Lines is out there. Plug to that. It's kind of cool to see what somebody wrote from back in the day. And I think the family video handbook is out there also. So, go to the site. I mean, there's materials out there. It's all free. I mean, just go and have fun and all the history and, enjoy the old stuff too. So
pretty amazing.
I appreciate everybody who's been out here listening, getting this far. I hope you all have had fun. I like to share the hows and whys sometimes. And, I think it's kind of cool how did something play out? I didn't even tell you the story behind Super Chef BT. We missed that one.
But you know what?
It's a funny story, but we'll leave that for another day.
You know what this is telling me? That you'll have to go back sometime. I think hopefully
Chef
you had
BT.
fun and want to.
That was something funny.
That's so friggin' cool.
Even Jonathan doesn't know all the stories.
We'll get Rev on here. Maybe we'll get you and Rev on here sometime with Jeff and I. I keep saying, I tell Rev knows he has an open invite whenever he wants to come on. He is more than welcome. He's just going to send me a message, say, I'm coming on tonight. And whatever we were doing that night, we're stopping and bringing Rev on for sure. And he knows that because I've told him that. And one of these days, maybe he'll decide he wants to. But
good. I appreciate Pete and I appreciate everybody out there. Thanks, you guys.
Okay, take care, guys. Everybody have a good night, rest of your week, and we will see you in the next videos and have fun playing Intellivision. Now I got to get up to the other screen, and here comes the video. Night, guys.
Hi, I'm Luke from Intelligent Collector. You're watching Papa Pete, the old guy.
If you haven't grown up by the age of